The story begins with this cafe. A middle-aged hero came in holding the head of a fanged wolf, and right at that moment, an important news was being broadcasted in the television. The hero sat down and he was greeted by this waiter. The waiter called him Old Kaio and asked about his hunt for today. Old Kaio shared that it was nothing much. He hunted with rookies today and there's nothing valuable from the loot they got. He then turned his attention to this huge screen. An important event was about to start. This was a broadcast of their Congress. All of these congressmen have voted and are about to rule out a decision. This man announced that the votes were 325 in favor and 0 votes for against and abstentions. He announced that the new rule called deprivation of the mask was now enforced. This man was He Yao and he was the president of the parliament. He addressed this hero named Mask. He told him that there had been a lot of evidence proving that this hero had committed crimes that cost the lives of the civilians. He also accused the hero of attacking allied heroes from the other country, causing an ill-fated relationship between nations. He Yao and all of these people in the Congress have officially sentenced this hero named Mask to the death penalty. But because of Mask's contributions on expelling the monsters and alien invaders on Earth, they reduced the sentence, but there will be consequences. All the titles of Mask as the Supreme Leader of the Commonwealth and as the Supreme Marshal of the Commonwealth will now be taken away. The only title that Mask has now was the title of being a special hero. This means that Mask will still be forced to help the public and the government in case there will be a problem. He will still return to the battlefield if need be. This event was being broadcasted all over the place. Some people were against this decision. They knew that this hero had helped them on countless disasters throughout the years. This man even added that if Mask didn't exist, humanity would have been extinct. But these two young heroes begged to differ. They told this man that the credit shouldn't all be given to Mask. And then their argument started. This man continued to prove his point. He had this impression towards Mask because he doesn't like the way he treated the other heroes. Mask even thought that there were other heroes that used their power towards personal gain. As for this man, he knew that all these allegations were not true. Their attention was now back to the broadcast. He Yao told Mask that he can now leave the platform as a special hero. He told him that humanity will never forget his contributions as their savior. Mask kept quiet all along. He stared at He Yao and then to the congressman. But something was wrong. Mask didn't know what's going on. He thought that he had already died from his fight against the Lord of the Weaving Night. But right now he's alive and he's on this platform. He thought that this was kind of a flashback. This was the time where he'll be betrayed by his companions. While he was still trying to process his thoughts, this notification popped out in front of him. It was from a system. It shows that Mask had already completed his goal of helping humanity construct a new national alliance. And as for his main goal, he will be given 2 branches of choice. The first branch was called Hero's Path. New crisis has appeared, and even if humanity was dumb, he will still protect them in the dark. The second branch was called Monster's Path. New crisis has appeared, but this time he will protect the world as a monster. It doesn't matter how he does this. After all, he will become a monster. The system gave Mask 20 minutes, and after that, he will be sent to a F-level environment. The greatest hero of humanity was facing a crossroad right now. But after thinking about it, it really wasn't that difficult. This time, he chose the monster path. He Yao then interrupted Mask. He asked him why the hero was not responding. He thought that maybe Mask was not satisfied with their verdict. This guy knew and recognized the contributions of Mask to their society. But as a leader, he needed to carry out this decision. Mask's actions really hindered a lot of their political decisions. In order to gain back the trust of the other nations, the Congress had been polluting the minds of the public towards Mask. Over the years, they made him their scapegoat, and because all of the hate was diverted to Mask, this move will make their Congress look great again. With this, Mask will just become a statue of the past, and all of the people will rely on the Congress again. This move also allows these greedy congressmen to do whatever they want to do. And if someone disagrees, they will be taken care of. But before these men could even celebrate, Mask spoke up and told them that he had an objection. This caused an uproar inside the venue. Yao, on the other hand, was already expecting this. This was because this move will look like Mask wanted to maintain his power and influence to the public, like this guy who had been talking shit to him since the hearing. But then they heard Mask's plea. He said that he also wanted to give up his special hero title. This shocked everyone. Yao was also caught off guard. Mask then stood up and repeated his words. He will give up the title of being a special hero. He told everyone that he's tired of being a hero. Yao started to shout against Mask. He's now implying that Mask didn't like their verdict and now he's doing this as his revenge. But Mask told him that he's not really disappointed with their verdict. Instead, he was glad about it. This guy didn't expect any of this. He thought that this plan would go so well that they could still use this hero to protect them. He thought that Mask was just using his power and strength to fight the Congress. Yao told Mask that he can't leave just yet. He then added that since Mask had given up his special hero title, he should also give up his power. The people were starting to get confused about this statement. Some of them even thought that this was too much to ask. Mask was a rank 13 hero. The next hero below him was only rank 9 and it was Yao. Mask was also the only one who managed to break through the 10th level realm. Most of the current heroes that this achievement was impossible for everyone to surpass. This speech continued to utter words that would destroy Mask's image to the public. He said that Mask had no right to just abandon them after putting all the resources to him. And now if Mask really wants to leave his position as a hero, he needs to give up his power. Mask responded and his aura started to overflow. Yao became speechless. This was the same for the congressmen and for the people who were watching. Mask agreed with Yao's condition. He then raised his hand and started to gather his power. He will now give up his strength. These greedy men started to feel pressure inside the venue. Meanwhile, Mask continued to stack up his power. People also started fainting out. They really can't handle the pressure. Even Yao started to struggle. He's a rank 9 hero, but he needed to use all of his power just to stay conscious in front of Mask. This hero's aura was enough to make everyone kneel in front of him. And now, since they wanted his power back, he was more than willing to give it to them. A huge ray of light was casted towards the sky. This busted all of the things that it hit. People who saw this outside even thought that this was a mysterious phenomenon. They thought that a king-class monster had descended over their city. But this ray of light that once had symbolized hope for humanity meant something different this time. These fools betrayed a hero once again for their own gain. And after a few minutes, Mask was done giving his power up. Yao was surprised that he even managed to withstand the pressure from Mask's power. But this was then followed by showing his shitty grin. He thought that finally, Mask was just an ordinary human again. The greatest hero of humanity had become nothing again. And with that, Mask started to leave. He reached for his mask and removed it. Finally, his responsibility for these fools was over. Yao still hasn't moved on. He knew that as soon as Mask walked out of this venue, he will be facing his end. But then a bright red light appeared below Mask, and then he was transported. Yao can't believe what just happened. Multiple notifications popped out again. Mask was transported to a level 4 secret realm, and it was a mother spider hatching nest, somewhere along a portal. These heroes came out and they were about to raid this secret realm. Their leader warned his team that they were about to fight level 3 spider guards. These spiders' size were as big as humans. This lady told their healer that she doesn't need to be afraid. These guys then told their leader to stop messing around as they were excited to kill the monsters. The other one thought that it was also a waste because they would not be able to watch Mask's trial. The lady uttered that if it wasn't for Mask's trial, this secret realm will not be available for them because other heroes will also be raiding this place. And after some time, their leader told them that it was now time to clear this dungeon. But before they could enter it, the portal shined again. They thought that someone was coming out of it. This man appeared out from the portal. These guys thought that something was wrong about this man because he came into the secret realm without any proper equipment. This guy was masked. and it has been a while since he entered a lower-level dungeon like this one. He then remembered something when he just got awakened. Mask happened to enter a dungeon that had a time limit on clearing it, and the boss in that dungeon was a demon god. But right now, Mask is back to being an ordinary citizen. He's only level 1 human, and the system even sent him in here. Mask was still not sure about this path that he took, but he really looked forward to how things will turn out, especially that he now needs to save the world as a monster. The leader of the party then approached him. He asked Mask if he was there to raid the dungeon. He also asked where his weapon was. Since our MC had no equipment with him, he told the leader that his fist will be his weapon. The leader was glad because he thought that Mask was a martial artist. This was a class that specializes on using their body as a weapon. The leader also asked Mask about his level. He was expecting that this martial artist was at least level 3. Our MC told him that he was just level 1. This shocked the whole party. The leader approached him again. He asked him if he was planning to die inside the dungeon, but Mask told them that he's in there to clear the dungeon. These guys were not buying it. After all, a level 1 hero without any equipment had no chance against a level 3 secret realm. Mask then told them that they needed to relax. He will not even try to bother them. The leader made sure to remember this guy's statement. He told our MC that even if he needed their help, they would not bother themselves. After their conversation, the party proceeded to enter the realm, but the lady looked at our MC one more time before leaving him alone. Their fight inside the realm then started. This lady used her fire skill towards these monsters. The other guy was an archer, and he provided extra support and damage when his teammates needed him. Their leader and the other guy were tasked to be in the front lines. Meanwhile, our MC was just staring at them at the sidelines. He was then approached by this girl. She told Mask that their leader was not really a rude man. He was just concerned about his safety because the realm was indeed a dangerous place to be. She warned him that if he's not careful, he'll pass away. Mask then started praising these heroes nowadays. He said that they really had become progressive and cautious. He thought that all of these things were built using their blood and tears. This girl told him that even though Mask looked young, his way of words were like those who were in the Congress. In short, he sounded like an old man. This trait and training among the aspiring professional heroes started from a policy that Mask had enforced. This requires all of the heroes to cooperate with each other, and this led to lower death rates inside the realms. After that, this girl introduced herself. Her name was Yan Zixi, and she was a level 2 healer. Mask introduced himself as well. His real name was Xiao Q, and he hasn't picked a class yet. From now on, we will address him using this name. He said that he's still thinking about it. Xiao Q thought that all of the existing classes today were all created by him. Zixi suggested that since Xiao Q's physique was not really suitable for melee-type classes, he should opt to choose spell-casting classes. This will also prevent him from being in constant danger being on the front lines. She then apologized to Q because she's been too talkative. As this went on, this pointed object appeared behind Zixi. Q quickly pulled her. It was an attack from the monster, and Zixi nearly got heat from this. The archer shouted that this monster was a shadow spider. Q saved this girl from its attack, and then Q quickly grabbed one of the spider's legs. Using just his bare hands, he was able to rip it apart. Q pulled the leg, and then he used it to attack the spider back. This guy just defeated a shadow spider just by using his left hand. And on top of that, he used the spider's leg as his weapon. The spider died in just one hit. The other party members can't believe what just happened. They thought that the path of a martial artist was too much. This guy said that he had already seen other martial artists, but none of them could replicate what Q did just now. Our MC accurately targeted the spider's weakest joint and attacked it in such a short moment. They knew that Q's skill was not ordinary. Our MC also told Zixi to let go now since there's no danger anymore. Zixi didn't notice that she's been hugging Q since. She quickly apologized and got embarrassed after realizing it. As for our MC, he found out that the monster path didn't affect his leveling system. He got 500 experience points from the spider, meaning he doesn't have to worry about the penalty on killing high-level monsters, as their levels will be proportional to the experience gain. And combined with his knowledge from all the battles he had when he was still the greatest hero, he could easily get back his strength from before. The leader of the party also praised Q because of his extraordinary talent. He really has what it takes to go to this secret realm. He also thanked Q for saving his teammate. With this, Q will also receive a share of the reward when they clear this realm. Our MC told him that he just did that because it's the right thing to do. After that, these professionals continued their quest. They easily defeated all the shadow spiders lurking in the area. The leader then said that the boss should be around the corner now. He reminded his teammates that after this fight, they will all go back to the real world. Their battle plan will also be the usual. As a tank, he will take the aggro and the rest of them will do the damage. He also reminded this lady to take advantage of her fire skill to burn the spider's silk. The archer was also excited to wrap this up because he still wants to watch the trial of Mask. The other one butted in and told him that most probably, Mask was found guilty. They were also curious about Mask's face. No one had ever seen his face with that mask of his. This girl used to be his supporter, but it all changed because of the rumor that Mask killed all the people in the city of Tuga. Zixi then defended Mask. She said that Mask had no other choice but to do that because all of the people in there got infected by a demon. It was Mask's last resort. This guy teased her because she was still protecting the hero's image in front of them. But then the leader told them to stop the talk. He thought that maybe Q was already irritated with them. And thus, their quest continued again. They now arrived at the part where more and more spider webs were scattered around them. But they didn't feel scared because they were more after the reward they could get after defeating the boss monster. And then a monster had made its move. This alerted these professionals. A huge spider really did appear in front of them. The leader took the initiative to take the aggro. While he got the attention of the boss monster, the others started their attacks. Q easily dodged the attacks. He remembered that monsters in the lower realms didn't have any intelligence. This was a reason they can be defeated easily. They continued to overwhelm this monster with their attacks. Zixi also provided support and healed their leader as he was tanking all the damages. And not long after, the monster was defeated. The leader was proud because they cleared a level 3 secret realm without taking any major injuries. He told them that the rewards will be distributed evenly. They will also give Q his share. Our MC heard him say level 3 secret realm. But the system told him that he will be transported to a level 4 secret realm. He thought that there's something wrong in here. The other guy then exclaimed that there's no treasure chest beside the fallen boss monster. They also felt an ominous aura up ahead of the tunnel. Then, they saw this girl with her student uniform walking towards them. This lady noticed something about the girl's head. She was wearing an astronaut helmet. At this moment, they knew that the reason why the treasure chest didn't appear was because that big spider wasn't the boss of this realm. This girl is. This guy then positioned himself. He thought that this secret boss was not that strong because the pressure he felt from the spider was greater than this girl. This boss monster was struggling to walk straight. She suddenly ran frantically towards them. This guy met her head on, but instead of dodging, this monster met his attack and it got her. The attack was spot on. The others were just watching them calmly. This guy even bragged about this fight being so easy. He then pulled his spear back as he intended to finish this fight off. His attack left a hole on the monster's body, but then webs came out from the hole and it targeted him. The boss monster got his arms. He tried struggling to remove the webs, but they were just too strong. The next thing he knew was his arms got broken instantly. Their team started to panic. The leader knew that physical attacks won't work against these webs, so he ordered this lady to use her flames. She casted her spell and she was able to heat the monster. The archer also started rescuing their teammate because he might also be caught with the fire. But before he could even get near them, the fire even grew stronger. And then they saw multiple legs coming out from the fire. The girl monster just grew multiple limbs. She was now more like a spider. The team started to panic, as they have not seen anything like this before. And while this guy was screaming, a foot got on his chest. It was the boss monster's attack. The archer was ready to avenge his friend, but he was stopped by RMC. Q warned him that he will recklessly fight this monster. He will end up like his friend. Their leader backed what Q said. This monster's power was out of their league. He intends to hold this monster up until the portal opens up again, but he found out that it would take another 3 hours before they could use it. He knew they couldn't hold this fight that long. The monster also started its move. It used its web again, and this time, it got into the leader's arms. The archer tried to help, but his attacks were useless. After that, the monster attacked him as well. The monster then pulled the archer towards her direction. Its ferocious teeth then appeared. The archer was not able to do anything about it. The monster got her early lunch. This incident made their leader furious. He then mustered his strength and slashed the webs of the monster, but his blade was stopped. This level 4 monster was just too strong. His attacks as a level 3 swordsman were just treated as nothing. The monster then got his hands again, and now he's the one who's being pulled. Q then shouted to give him his sword. He told the leader that if he wanted to live, he would let Q cat his hand. He knew he had no other choice. The leader threw his sword towards Q. RMC didn't hesitate to cut off his arm, as this was the only thing that could save the old man. The leader then screamed in pain. After that, Q helped him have some distance from the monster. Zixi then used her skills to heal her leader. Meanwhile, this lady was already in a state of panic. She then ran away because she didn't want to die. Zixi asked Q why he was not doing the same. RMC told her that this monster was just letting her prey run because it makes them tastier. The monster wants them to feel fear first before killing them. These kinds of monsters were called God-chosen beasts. They fed on humans' negative emotions like fear, jealousy, and resentment. Q further explains this to Zixi. These monsters were blessed by the outer gods, that's why they became more powerful than the normal monsters. RMC knew about this because he already defeated hundreds of these monsters in his past identity. But he never expected that the system would send him into a realm that already has this kind of monster. This god-chosen beast started to do something weird again. It released a poisonous gas and it spread throughout the place. Luckily, Zixi was there and she has a skill that could repel the poison. Meanwhile, this lady was now in trouble. She ran away and she was already out of range from Zixi's skill. She inhaled the poison and immediately went unconscious. But since Zixi was just a level 2 healer, she wasn't able to withstand the pressure of the poison gas. This monster was starting to get happy, but then it noticed something. Q was already missing from his position. He told the monster that even though his powers were gone, his spirit and soul were still at level 14. That made him withstand the poison gas. RMC also acquired a skill while he was fighting in this realm. He activated his skill and his appearance started to change. RMC just transformed to his new form as a monster. And he told the monster that it should be proud because it will witness his new strength. The monster released more concentrated poison gas towards Q, but RMC was already taking his position to dash towards the monster. And in a split second, he vanished. The monster had no time to react. It received significant damage from Q. RMC got one of its legs. He even teased it because these legs were quite good. The monster tried counter-attacking, but it was no use. The power gap between these two was just too wide. Q was even disappointed because he expected more from it. But since he needed to end this quickly, RMC continued his attacks. And as expected, the god-chosen beast was overwhelmed. It only now has one leg to stand on. RMC really started to make fun of his prey. This monster knew that it had no chance of winning against Q. That's why it started running away. But then, its other leg was cut off again. The monster fell down. She looked like more of an octopus now. A takoyaki. As it tried to crawl away, it was stopped by Q. This is the new form of humanity's greatest hero now. A monster that could devour all the other monsters in the world. And just like that, RMC ended his fight. The system then congratulated him for clearing the quest. He also got a spider foot as a reward. And he will be transported back to the real world now. 2 hours later after the incident, Zixi was now wandering the streets. She still can't believe what happened inside that realm. When they woke up, they were already out of the secret realm. The leader was also rushed out to the hospital. The other lady was also not injured, but Zixi was worried about Q because she didn't see him after that, and as she searched for our MC, eventually she saw him in front of a building. As for our MC, the system transported him in Da City. And right now, he's looking for a place to live in. But the rental cost for one room was already over 3,000 Union dollars per month. And since these things were given to him for free in his past identity as a hero, he didn't have anything for himself right now. He didn't even have money. As he was thinking about how difficult life would be for him now, Zixi shouted his name. Q remembered this girl as the healer from the secret realm, and she got a little disappointed because Q didn't remember her name. She then told her name again. This girl's name was Yan Zixi. Aside from that, she was happy to see Q all safe and sound. She then noticed that Q was looking at the rent rates for this building. She found out that Q didn't have a place to settle in as he also didn't have any relatives in this city. Zixi started talking about the history of Da City. This place was established 40 years ago after the disaster. With a rapid development around the area, it became an urban village in no time. Zixi made Q follow her and she showed him her house. This girl just adopted our MC. Her house was big enough to have a separate room for Q. Q then saw something in Zixi's gate. She told him that it was a medal that her father received when he retired as a hero. His father was a level 5 melee professional and he took part in a lot of battles. Zixi told Q that her father even had the opportunity to fight alongside Mask. Although she's not sure if this was true because her father often tells this story when he is drunk. Q then asked her about her father. It turns out, her father was already gone. The war had taken its toll on his body. Even if all the wounds from the battles had been healed, his father lost too much vitality. He passed away not long after he retired. Our MC then asked about her mother. She had already passed away as well when she gave birth to Zixi's sister. Q became speechless after hearing this. But then Zixi told him that he doesn't need to have that expression because this all happened a long time ago and she's doing well now. She then invited Q inside the house. She will even give Q some clothes to get him started. This girl then pointed out the room that Q could use. This was a spare room and he can live in it. Q thought that compared to his past identity being always in the front lines, this life was better. He will also make sure to pay her kindness once he starts earning from the secret realms. And then someone came. It was this girl in a wheelchair. And she's asking who Q is. This girl was Kyan Liu and she was Zixi's younger sister. Zixi also explained Q's situation to her. She introduced Q as her companion in the secret realms, but this girl didn't like her older sister bringing someone she just met to their house. Kyan Liu then went away. Zixi apologized on behalf of her sister to Q. She told him that her sister gets agitated whenever she sees some strangers. Also, this was the day that Mask went to trial. Kyan Liu was a big fan of Mask. Q didn't expect that he would have many fans in the past. Meanwhile, Kyan Liu was back in front of her computer. This girl was busy being a keyboard warrior against all the bashers of Mask. She continued to type her rebuttals towards these trolls. And then, Zixi shouted that it's time for them to eat. But this girl was really dedicated to her mission. She doesn't want to eat even if they have a guest waiting for her. She also told her sister that she doesn't need to welcome Q. Eventually, Zixi gave up. She then apologized to Q again because their food now was too simple. But in Q's perspective, these foods were already good. He remembered the times he was forced to eat monster meat without any seasoning. He had to endure all of those times in his past life. That time, he had the mindset of a hero. He was willing to endure all the hardship as long as he could bring peace to the world. As they were eating, the news about Mask's trial was broadcasted. These two hosts were talking about what happened in the trial. This one said that there's a hypothesis about Mask's disappearance. The people on the internet said that Mask only pretended to give up his powers. After all, he just disappeared after the trial. This other one was more concerned about the fact that the greatest hero of mankind was gone. He's thinking if they will all just be fine if they experience a disaster once again. This guy was obviously against mask. He was being biased on his statements. He said that he's sure that mankind will once again withstand any disaster. He emphasized that even without mask, the world will still move forward. Zixi was still also concerned about the verdict on Mask's trial. She was about to ask Q's perspective on this matter, but she got distracted because Q ate so fast. It was already his fourth bowl. This guy was just busy eating and enjoying his food. But Zixi continued to tell him her thoughts about the trial. She still thinks that Mask has his reasons behind his actions. Q half-heartedly responds to Zixi's thoughts. She realized that Q didn't really care about Mask at all. If only she knew that his guy was masked. She thought that if her sister saw this news about their idol, she had already smacked the TV down. Suddenly, these two heard some loud noises outside. These shouting people introduced themselves as representatives of Kai Jiang Investment Company. They kept on knocking aggressively, and they even threatened to burn this house down if someone would not open the door for them. Zixi then quickly ran towards the door. She opened it and these guys greeted her. She then told them that her decision on not selling this house to their company was final. But then this guy explained her situation to her. She just lost her party because of the secret realm they raided, and now she has no source of income. Zixi was confused on how these thugs knew about what happened inside the realm. This guy then told her that their company had some connections to the government and it was easy to get some information about them. This guy knew that eventually, Zixi will have no other choice but to accept their offer. He also gave her 5 days to consider their offer, and if she wouldn't cooperate after this, things would get troublesome for Zixi. He offered $100,000 federal dollars in exchange for her house. Zixi got confused again because the offer before was $3 million. Although she had no intentions on selling this property to them, it still doesn't make any sense. This guy was really taking advantage of this opportunity. He was forcing them to take his offer immediately. He even used her sister's medical bills to even make her think about taking the deal. Kai Lu needs her treatment and it will cost a lot of money, and right now, Zixi only has less than $30,000 in her bank account. Q then came out and this guy noticed him. He then greeted Q as he thought that he was Zixi's boyfriend. He tried to offer a handshake with Q. He even introduced himself to him. This guy's name was Tujin Kenzo and he's the chief of the security department. RMC accepted the gesture. Before they could shake their hands, Zixi warned Q about Kenzo's abilities, but it was already too late. This guy specialized in mental strikes and he plans to use it. He used his power against RMC. Kenzo entered Q's mental world and he was about to launch his attack here. He was even thinking of just giving Q a minor concussion because he's been in a good mood lately. But this guy started to get confused. He's been trying to reach Q's consciousness for a while now. And then he noticed something. This wide world was Q's mental world. He's now in panic because this was the first time he encountered a powerful mental power. Kenzo knew that he needed to flee as fast as he could, but he was stopped by these huge waves. The waves got him. He thought that Q was on a whole different level. This guy was about to get devoured by Q's mental power. RMC didn't have to do anything. Kenzo also saw this while he's being submerged by Q's consciousness. He screamed because he just saw the true monster. Back to the real world, Kenzo went out cold. Zixi didn't know what was happening. The other bodyguards were about to attack Q because their leader just got unconscious, but he was stopped by the other one in charge. This guy knew that Q was too strong for them to handle. He thought that Q might be a level 3 professional based on how he handled Kenzo. As he was trying to help his boss, this guy told Zixi that their affairs were far from over. They even have the nerve to say that if someone caused problems with their people, things will not be easy even though they were the ones who started this. After they left, Zixi asked Q if he really did that to Kenzo. Q told her that it was Kenzo's fault for trying to get inside his mental world. RMC didn't even have the intention to do that to him. Q then found out that the Kai Jiang company has been harassing them for 4 years now. That they really wanted to buy their house. Even if Zixi already told them that they will not sell the house, they continued to disturb them. They even threaten her sister whenever she's not present. This only stopped when her leader came into the rescue. But now that this kind man was in the hospital, she's sure that they will come after them again. Q then asked her about the preferential treatment they should be getting from the government as he passed this bill when he was still a hero. It was then revealed that Zixie's family didn't receive such a thing. The government was also backing these shark companies. This was the only time that Q found out that his policies when he was still a hero were not being enforced properly. After that incident, Q helped Zixie on washing the dishes. This was the only way he could help them for now. Zixie told him that she was already grateful because Q drove those thugs away. She then asked him about his plans on the secret realms and if Q will join other parties. And it's the same case for Zixie. If her leader doesn't wake up soon, she will be forced to join other parties. But joining other parties nowadays was kinda risky. Some parties even backstabs their members just to gain more loot. Mask had already enforced a policy prohibiting professionals on killing each other, but when people were already inside the realm, no one could really tell what's happening. She told Q that if she was able to find some reliable parties, she would surely recommend Q to them. Q agreed to her suggestion. But deep inside, our MC knew that ever since he chose the monster path, joining other professionals will be impossible. He also knew that no one in their right minds would fight alongside a monster like him. And while he was finishing up cleaning the dishes, the system notified him again. It was a level 4 secret realm mission again. But the main requirement for this was Q needs to clear this alone. And he only has 12 hours to prepare for this. After some time, a portal appeared in this secret realm. Q came out from the portal. This was the secret realm he needed to clear alone. He also thanked the system because he was able to enter and exit the realms without requiring official requests from the government. Armak noticed that this realm's design was like Europe's Middle Era. He also noticed these huge gargoyle statues. As soon as he locked his eyes with these statues, the stones started to crack, and not long after, the stone gargoyles turned into scarlet gargoyle monsters. He then started to analyze the characteristics of these monsters. He thought that if Zixie's team encountered these monsters, there would be a lot of casualties. The gargoyles didn't waste any more time and they charged Q, but they were just stopped on their tracks with Q's hands. Our MC used his monster form again, and now he felt pity among these monsters because they were about to get wrecked by the true monster. And just like that, our MC eliminated 2 gargoyles. Q continued to wander around this realm and he then saw a whole bunch of gargoyles again. He even challenged them to charge him all at once. The monsters started to fly and surround Q. Our MC did this superhero landing pose, but this time, he's gonna do something different. Q jumped up as well, and then one by one, he defeated these gargoyles with one strike. And after a while, our MC went on being One Punch Man to rip the gargoyles' wings apart. Even these stone monsters were able to feel fear when they fought Q. After defeating the last gargoyle, something came down. It was the leader of the monsters. It was called Luck's stone statue. Q made a comment about how this one looked more like a human, and because of that, Q wanted to kill it even more. After that, these two dashed towards each other. The room was then filled with silence. After a while, someone opened the door, and these professionals came in ready to take a fight, but all they got was a pile of rubbles and an empty room. This guy was confused because they were told that they were the first team to enter this dungeon. The entrance was also closed when they entered this place, so it was really a bit odd that someone got in before them. This lady started looking around and she found one of the gargoyles' bodies. She told her leader that whoever did this was indeed a monster. The damage was not from a sharp sword because of its uneven texture. That means this was done by ripping the body apart. This idea was enough to send chills into their bones. Using bare hands with this fight was just too much and nearly impossible. But then this guy saw something that could prove that this really happened. A body was pinned on one of the pillars of this room. It was the leader of the monsters, and Q used its spear against it. Meanwhile, at the Secret Realm Inspection Bureau office in Da City, these guys were being filled with a lot of complaints. This boss was furious because the amount of people who were reporting that the dungeon they were supposed to clear was already done by someone else. But currently, There are already 7 reports, and this can't be kept on happening because it means that they were neglecting their duty as officers. But this guy thought that this was not really a good thing because secret realms were really supposed to be cleared sooner or later. The boss got more angry because this guy didn't see the bigger picture. Secret realms were indeed opted to be cleared, but not from those who evade their security. This also compromises the safety of the professionals inside the dungeon. If that unregistered person will just kill monsters inside, then there's no problem. But what if his main purpose was to ambush the professionals? This will really create a huge uproar to the hero community. The boss then told his team that back in his day, most of the heroes that entered the dungeon were not killed by the monsters. They were betrayed by their companions to gain more power and money. He also started to analyze the situation. It all started with the dungeon where the gargoyles were ripped apart. According to the reports, the infiltrator should be at least level 4 to 5 professionals to do such a thing. They also ruled out the possibility that this was done by a group of professionals because the way the monsters were defeated showed only one pattern. And with this information, the boss concluded that the person behind this will also try to sell the loot that he got to the market. He then tasked his team to check the market around the city and find those who got the same loot that can be obtained from the infiltrated dungeons. Meanwhile, at the professional trading market at Da City, this shopkeeper was glad to have business with someone. It was Q. He indeed sold the loot drops to these shops and he got a decent amount of money. He also didn't really care about the price he was selling because this was just a bonus for clearing his quests. But with this money, Q could now help Zixi and he could also pay his rent. And then he heard a familiar voice nearby. It was Zixi, and she's trying to sell an item to the shop. This shopkeeper was trying to haggle her into selling her antique sword for a much cheaper price. He told her that since it was too old, it would be worth just like a scrap. This blade was her father's and it was the only treasure she got right now. And now, she's sad because this thing was just considered as a scrap now. The shopkeeper saw her pitiful state and told her that he'll buy it for $3,500. His offer was $3,300 before. Zixi was already thinking about it. She really didn't want to sell this, but she needs money to pay for her sister's medical expenses. As for the shopkeeper, he was trying to take advantage of the situation because Zixi had no idea about what she was selling. A sword like this one can only be obtained in high-level secret realms, and this item would easily sell for $10,000. He then tried to pressure Zixi more into selling the sword now because he might change his mind. But then someone spoke up. It was Q. He checked the sword that Zixi was holding, and he knew that this was a level 5 professional long blade. He told Zixi that he wanted this equipment. The shopkeeper shouted at him because our MC just poached his transaction with Zixi. And then Q decided to give Zixi the money he earned from the dungeons. Since this was a lot of money, the shopkeeper conceded. After that, these two decided to sit somewhere in this park. Q now has the sword in his hand. Zixi told him that she could give the sword to him for only $1,500 because he had already helped her a lot. But Q denied her trade offer. He told her that she should take all the money because this was his payment for the accommodation and for all the delicious food she took care of. Q insisted that she take the money. Our MC also told her that this blade was not as simple as she thought. The value of this sword easily exceeds $10,000. Zixi then commented that this blade really suits him because they were full of secrets. She had been thinking about the mysterious things around Q. This guy was able to escape the secret realm they were in last time, and now he has gained so much money in such a short period of time. But she made sure that she would be meddling with Q's actions. She just wished that Q would be nice enough to really take care of her father's treasure. The sword's name was Flying Crow. Q thought that it was really a great name for a sword. It's like a dangerous crow that was lurking in the dark, waiting for its chance to attack. Zixi also told Q that she really didn't want to sell the sword, but she had no other choice. She also shared about the tragedy that struck her younger sister. Qianlu was at prison in the city when the Great Ghost incident happened. This Great Ghost was a level 10 monster that caused trouble in Da City. The government army and the professionals all sacrificed a lot of lives just to defeat this monster. Her father was killed in this incident, and the only thing that was recovered from this tragedy was his sword, Flying Crow. The most deadly thing about this incident was a radiation emitted throughout the city. The sky even turned green that day. Kyan Liu was also struck by the radiation and her feet both got affected. She was on the edge of the radiation. Zixi also shared that Kyan Liu was a genius in using swords. She could easily become a level 5 swordsman or higher, but this all changed when she got that accident. And now, she needed constant treatment from high-leveled healers just to prevent the radiation from spreading out to her body. Zixi was also forced to give up her close combat career because she needed a more survival-rated job. Q remembered this incident. He was the one who defeated the Great Ghost with just one punch. But he was deployed 10 hours late. He didn't expect that in such a short period of time. That incident changed so many lives. Our MC was reminded why he hated the monsters so much. Q also remembered that Mask made a deal with the federal government to assist all the affected families from that incident. But Zixi didn't know about it at all. And after sharing this burden with Q, she felt more okay now. She told Q that they should head back home now. She will also be cooking delicious food for Q, and they went on their way. Q also happened to pass by these two men who were looking for the loot drops from the infiltrated dungeons. They were sure that the loot would be sold in the professional market in no time. Meanwhile, in the house of Zixi, Kyan Liu was still busy fighting the trolls of the internet. But then she heard loud knocks on their door. She thought that this was not her sister because the knocks were too aggressive. She then remembered about the guys from the Kaijiang investment company. The knocks kept on getting stronger. Kyan Liu saw her wooden stick and grabbed it. She made her way towards the door. And that's when this guy managed to open it with his kick. The guy proceeds to enter the house and he greets Kyan Liu. This annoyed Kyan Liu and tried swinging her sword, but she was not able to land a strike. She also fell down. The guy then stepped on her weapon. He knew that Kyan Liu can't do anything to him because she can't reach him. This boss then ordered his men to search for Zixi and the guy that hurt Kenzo last time. These thugs started to flip and destroy everything inside the house. And then these lackeys reported that they didn't find Zixi and Q. He then decided that they will just bring Kyan Liu with them because they can't go back empty-handed. The other guy told his boss that this was not a good idea because they could be charged for kidnapping. The boss praised this guy and gave him a special task instead. He gave him the keys of a truck and ordered him that as soon as Zixi and her boyfriend arrives, he will drive the truck to Zixi's yard. The boss planned to dump garbage in their yard and file it as a minor accident. These guys liked the idea and they all laughed. After some time, rain started pouring down. Zixi and Q were still running towards their house. But then Zixi saw something. She saw her younger sister still on the ground. Kyan Liu was just left there with her pitiful state. Zixi quickly ran towards her sister to help her. Kyan Liu told them what happened. She said that it was the Kaijiang investment company. Q then assisted Kyan Liu going back into the house. But then they heard a loud crash. It was the truck. And it really crashed into their yard and all the garbage was dumped in front of them. Zixi held her ground. She already knew who did this. The guy even tried to tease them that this was just an accident. He also told Zixi that she should also clean this up since she was already standing in front of it. Kyan Liu then tried to console her sister, but Q stopped her. He told her to let her sister be alone. He said that it would only make her sister sadder if she insisted. Zixi then went inside their house but her head was still held high, but she didn't say a single word to them. After that, Q and Kyan Liu were left outside the house. Liu then asked Q why these kinds of things were happening to them. She wonders if there's really justice in this world. Q told her that there never was. Liu then proceeds on asking for even a bit of hope or fairness in their society. And our MC told her the truth. These things really don't exist. He said that even the rain falls unequally to everyone. Q held her sword and told her that rain falls to those who were suffering and to those who were unrighteous. He further told her that the world was really unjust. Even this simple rain was proof of that. Our MC was clearly annoyed about what happened. He destroyed the wooden sword of Qian Liu only with his grip. Qian Liu was not able to contain her feelings and she started crying. Q told her that her family's problems were too small compared to the problems of this world, and he can't really be bothered with their affairs. But since our MC was always being followed by trouble, he opted to do something about it. Qian Liu asked him where he was going. Q told her that he was going to kill these people. This girl panicked as she heard his response because she thought Q can't win against them. The company has fighters that were levels 3 to 4. She also reminded him about their problems being too minor to be bothered upon. Our MC agreed that this was really a minor problem. In fact, it bores him. But the truth is, he was fond of doing boring things like this, especially when these problems can be solved using violence. That day, it was a rainy afternoon. Q was already in front of the building, ready to attack. Inside this establishment was a luxurious experience. It was also filled with strong bodyguards in case someone would cause any trouble. Q entered the building and it quickly alerted the guards. But instead of being scared, they looked like they even wanted some trouble. These two approached Q and told him to put away his weapon. But our MC didn't stop walking. It felt like he had already done something. In a split moment, this guy had been slashed. These two were already turned into dust. Q also got a new mission from the system. It required him to use Flying Crow to kill all the hostile beings in the building. And as for its reward, the sword will have an upgrade. After that, more guards were deployed to stop Q, and he continued to walk towards them. One of the guards told his companions to be more careful, and thus, they surrounded Q. These guys started their attack. With a swift motion, our MC already got them. This guy was also just about to strike, but our MC already noticed his aura. Q used his sword and he got his arms, and then he targeted his body. But Q's blade got stuck. Flying Crow was already dull. The others noticed this and were about to use this information to their advantage. Q got his sword off and decided to use his fist instead. This caught this guy off guard. He knew that Q was a weapon user, but his physical strength was greater than those martial artists. After that, Q got his sword again. He continued his quest to kill these men. Meanwhile at this office, the man who went to Zixie's house was just chilling. He thought that eventually, those two sisters would sell their property to them. These guys were already expecting large profits if they could redevelop the place. But then this guy barged in and alerted his boss. He told them that someone was killing all the guards and that man was already on his way towards them. It's only one intruder, but he already managed to kill most of the guards. This guy was now thinking who they have messed up with. They always make sure they won't be involved with high-level professionals or people with great influence. He ordered his men to check out what's really happening. They went out and brought all of their weapons with them. And then they saw something. Someone was on the stairs and was begging for his life. But he was met with this dark slash. And then Q emerges from the stairs. This boss was quickly intimidated by the aura of our MC. He tried acting tough and told his men that they were all high-level professionals, so they can't be scared of one guy. These three had prepared themselves and wielded their weapons. Since they were level 4 professionals, they asked Q to just surrender. The other guy recognized him and told his boss that Q was the one who put Kenzo in a coma. And he's with Zixie's house when they went in there last time. Q thought that if he'll be facing 3 level 4 professionals, he would have a hard time if he'll just use his human form. Our MC then destroyed these light switches in the hallway, and the lights went out. These guys were already thinking that Q was planning to take them out in the dark. But this guy told him that darkness doesn't bother him as he had this night vision skill and he activated it. His vision slowly adjusted and then he saw something odd. The man they were facing with a while ago was gone. And right now, there's a monster in front of them. This guy felt the ominous aura around them. He saw Q move, but it was already too late. Flying Crow already devoured him. Their boss tried calling out this guy's name, but all he got was a stench of blood. He's wondering if his companion is already dead. Lightning struck something near the building, and the light from it showed them this horrible scene. Q was already ready to strike. This guy was able to block Q's attempt. He knew that if he had reacted a little slower, he'd already be dead by now. The blonde guy used his ice skill and casted an ice arrow, but Q already saw his attack. Our MC blocked this powerful attack just by using one hand. He also crashed it using his grip, and now he turned his head towards the guy who made the attack. Blood was all over the place and their leader heard it. Q was already holding one head, and before their leader could even speak to Q, his head was cut off. The greatest hero of humanity has clearly taken the monster path. Flying Crow was now drenched in blood, and those reinforcements that came to help their boss were now scared for their lives. They didn't expect that they would meet a monster today. Q suddenly vanished from their visions, and the next thing they knew was that the monster was already in front of them. After a few seconds, Q had already taken care of them. That's where this guy told Q to stop. Our MC knew that this guy was different from the others. This one was a level 6 professional. This professional thought that this monster in front of him was just using a transformation type of spell, but it also had a demon breath. So this hypothesis was already out. He then slowly walked down the stairs. He told Q that he's in between a human and a demon, and that makes him a very rare monster. He now plans to hunt Q down to compensate for all the losses he got from today's encounter. This professional made his move and vanished for a second. He came to our MC and aimed his head. Q was able to dodge it, but he still got grazed. This professional was already impressed because Q managed to dodge his attack. He praised Q's reaction speed, but that initial attack was just to check Q's capabilities. And since he already got the information he needed, he continued to attack Q. This guy was really powerful. He managed to land some slashes throughout Q. He was already enjoying this because his opponent was quite tough. But then he knew that for his next move, this monster was done for. This guy lunged towards Q. Our MC dodged it easily, but this was just a trap. This guy just took out a gun against a monster. He clicked it and he managed to land a clean hit on Q. He was quite satisfied because this technique never missed a shot. All of the monsters he used this with were all blown to pieces. He's now thinking that he could still sell this monster for high price. But as the dust settled, Q's head was still intact. This professional can't believe that a monster managed to withstand that attack. He's now thinking how this monster survived his attack. Q spoke and told him the name of the technique that this guy used against him. It's called 19 rapier style. Q praised this guy for mastering this technique to this extent. Our MC knew this technique because he's the one who invented it. He specifically designed this technique for rapier users. But since this was created by Q, he knew how to counter it. He also said that this technique was just to be used for the righteous. And this guy has been using it for the wrong cause. He didn't understand Q's remarks because in his perspective, he used it to take down a monster. Q explained the situation to this professional. He told them about the families whose lives were ruined because of this investment company. This professional responded that he didn't really care about them at all, because the world will still turn around even if those people were left in ruins. And that was the principle that this guy was talking about. He then continued his quest to take down Q, and because of his twisted principle, Q has decided what to do. Our MC just grew these claw-like things behind his back. The level 6 professional didn't expect this weapon from Q, but still, he dodged it. As for the next attack, it was just too fast to react to. This was just the only chance that Q needed. A barrage of attack was then released towards this guy. After a few more seconds, this was him now. This guy asked Q one last question. He asked what kind of monster Q was. Our MC drew his sword once again as he answered his question. He told him that Q had already established his identity a while ago. And just like that, Flying Crow was drenched in blood again. Q noticed that it then started glowing. Flying Crow just evolved into its new form called Blood Raven. This weapon's ability was its unlimited growth potential. Its appearance didn't change at all, but our MC knew that something within it was different. It felt like his weapon even had its own heartbeat now. He thought that this was really a perfect weapon for him because both of them had an unlimited room for improvement. After that, Q noticed another guy who was already scared to death. He tried begging Q not to kill him, but our MC was now a monster. Unlike being a hero, His morals were now different. He then gave this treat to his newly evolved weapon, Blood Raven. The slash from the sword was enough to devour this guy. It even destroyed the building, and its power was seen outside. And as this chaos was happening inside the building, a special task force was already on their position. This officer reported that they had already surrounded the area. Someone managed to report this mess to them, and now they came to arrest the infiltrator. The one who's in charge of this operation told his troops not to attack first. They will wait and hope that the suspect will negotiate with them first. This old man knew that all of the people killed inside this building were not innocent. They were the ones that ruined thousands of lives. But he still needs to do his job. As they waited outside, one officer saw someone was coming out of the building. It's our MC, and all of his clothes have a lot of blood all over it. Meanwhile, Zixi was done taking a bath, and she just found out that Q made his way to Kaijang Investment Company. This girl quickly grabbed her umbrella as she was about to stop Q. As she was walking towards the building, she saw the armies of policemen that surrounded the area. She was stopped by one of the officers and asked if she was Zixi. He told her that she was needed for an investigation that was ongoing right now. The officer then showed Zixi a picture of Q. She told him that she knows Q and asked what happened to him and if he was still alive. This officer told her that he's not just alive. The Q was in good health. At the City Defense Army exclusive prison, Q was held and admitted inside. This old man had been observing our MC's behavior for a while now. This guy reported that Q had already confessed about his attack towards the Kaijang Investment Company. But the only information they got after that was his name. Other than that, they don't know anything about this guy. It's as if he just appeared out of nowhere. There's also no government files that were related to him. The only person he was related to was Zixi. They asked this girl, and they found out that these two met inside the secret realm. They then related his identity towards the mysterious infiltrator of the secret realms. The old man really found Q mysterious. He then asked about Zixi's identity. He found out that Zixi was just a level 2 healer and that her father served the military as a level 5 professional. It was also reported to him that Zixi's sister was caught from the disaster that hit the Da City a long time ago. This girl revealed to them how she met Q. She told them that her party was about to conquer a secret realm, but then Q appeared from the portal. Her statement was also consistent from the other party members that survived the realm. This commander also found out that Q attacked the Kaijang Investment Company because they had been harassing Zixi's family into selling their property to them. After this director entered the room. He told the commander that it's now their time to talk to Q personally. Commander Jiang was a level 7 professional and the director was at level 6. These two were considered to be the strongest in Da City. The door to Q's room opened. The commander immediately saw Q's look, but then he noticed that our MC was not looking at him. He was looking at the badges on his cloak. The commander then sat down and started his interview. He told Q about the consequences for the crime he just committed. Q could be sentenced to death or he could be enlisted to the battalion's front lines to atone his sins. Q will only get his freedom back after serving and surviving these battles in the battlefield. But as far as anyone knows, this was just like serving someone a death sentence. No one had ever survived on the front lines. As for our MC, fighting monsters in the front lines was not really a punishment. He had been doing this all his life in his past identity as a hero. The commander noticed something about Q's statement. He asked Q if he had experience being in the front lines, and Q answered yes. The director and the commander exchanged looks. They knew that there's really something mysterious about Q. If what he was saying was true, they could have known Q's identity. Because there were only a few people that could survive that situation. The commander then told Q that the director and him had also been in the front lines. The commander had served the front lines for 10 years and the director was considered as a veteran in this field. The only ones who served more than them were Mask and the first group of heroes. The commander even showed Q his Mask medal as a proof. And since Q knew the feeling of fighting in the front lines, He should have known that he should not have done this crime in the first place. These kinds of situations could easily crumble the peace that they have been establishing for decades. Q had also been entering the secret realms without any government notice. This was really a huge deal because it could destroy their security's image. But with all these explanations, Q kept quiet. He didn't say a single word to these two. The commander then told him that since he was too uncooperative, they can't do him a favor now. But this old man still hopes that Q will eventually cooperate with them because once he's been transferred to the federal capital prison, the officers there will not give him this treatment anymore. Q knew about the federal capital and he thought that he would like to visit that place again. But right now, it was a little bit impossible. Our MC just received a new mission. It's about the Great Ghost's reincarnation. It has been a few years since that disaster struck Dawes City, and the Great Ghost was not completely defeated. It now threatens its reincarnation from the bodies of the radiation blast it made last time. Our MC's main mission was to defeat the new calamity that was about to be born again, and his reward was its core. This was a form of the Great Ghost, or also known as the Great Obscenity. This monster was at the calamity level, meaning its powers were as strong as the level 7 to 13 professionals. Q already knew about the upcoming revival of this monster way back when he defeated it. That's why he told the government back then to monitor all the people who were affected by its radiation. Q really worked hard back then, and all he wanted was to maintain peace throughout the world. He was being transferred to all places just to save them from different calamities. But that day when he saved the people in Dawes City, all that he received was verbal harassment. He came in 10 minutes late, and that was enough for the people to hate him. They called him names and told him that he's not grateful enough to the people who had put him in that position. This was the ugly truth about humanity. But every single time, Q faced all of the hate and still asked for forgiveness. This time, it's different. He doesn't need to be a hero anymore. Mankind was just too much. Q thought that it doesn't really matter now if people live or not. He doesn't care anymore. Meanwhile, these two were still wondering if Q really experienced being on the front lines. But the old man told him that in all of his experience, he hasn't seen anyone with that kind of strength. Commander Jiang knew this because of the way he killed those people in the building. He knew that Q was an expert in all combat techniques. It's like he cultivated multiple classes all at once. The director then asked the commander if Q was one of the geniuses in their lifetime. There were very few people who could achieve that kind of strength. This old man then told him that Q may be a genius, but he was also a dum-dum to sacrifice his freedom just to get Kaijiang Investment Company. They were not worth it. The judgment for Q was up to the Federation again. The same people who were behind Mask's trial. This was the federal government capital called Star City. This was built after humanity survived the Dark Ages. This city was considered as the symbol of humanity's revival, and right now, it has reached the future science fiction kind of state. And at one of the offices in this city, these congressmen were panicking and arguing about something. It's Yao again, and he's looking at the report handed to him. This was Q's crime report. He thought that this young man really has a talent, but this man still wants to punish Q for his actions. He said that this could be a greater danger to society. As for the real reason why he wanted our MC to be punished, Kaijiang Company was one of his cash cows in Dawes City, and he needed to do this to show his power to those other companies who were under his protection. Yao then decided to send Q to the monster retreat and take him into the front lines. This man was still not satisfied with this verdict. He needed Q to be executed in public. He's worrying that his lackeys would turn their backs against him. But then Yao changed the topic of the meeting. He's annoyed because no one has ever located Mask since his disappearance from that trial. The room suddenly went silent. It's now the modern times. Someone could easily locate him and report them immediately to news outlets or to anyone. But still, there's still nothing about Mask. Little did Yao know that Mask was already in front of him, but under a different identity. The other congressmen inside the room were trying to calm their leader down. They told him that Mask had no more powers now, and that's Yao's point. If this was true, Mask couldn't instantly disappear in the courtroom. This guy then said that maybe that's just from the little power he had left. This was also the propaganda that they have been feeding the people for the past few days. And this move had decreased the supporters of Mask significantly. Yao calmed down as he assessed the situation. Right now, he's the most powerful man in this federation. After that, Yao still told them that they still need to find Mask just for their peace of mind. The next topic they needed to address was the increase of monsters in the front lines. This month, it had a 32% increase. Yao realized the importance of Mask in these kinds of situations. Without him, they will have a hard time killing the monsters. This guy then asked them if they had pushed too far about their verdict in Mask's trial. This ticked Yao because it was like someone questioned their collective decision. Yao then proceeded to vent out his frustration. He asked these congressmen if they all think that humanity will not survive without Mask. And to address this current problem, he ordered to reduce the troops present in each city to reinforce their power in the front lines. This guy said that that was not a good idea. The troops in each city were deployed there in case a calamity emerged. And if they do this redeployment, it will affect the defense of these affected places. But someone made a comment that he was just against this move because that man was in charge for supplying weapons to the guards. And thus their argument started. But none of them could oppose Yao's decision, and it was final. There had been no major calamity in these cities for years, and he's confident that they could manage these dangers now. As for Q, Yao wanted him to be sent to the capital. At the DOS City Defense Force building, Zixi was done cooperating with these officers. She had done this to save Q, but there's really nothing she could do. But Chan Liu can't accept this situation. Q was charged for a major crime, and these sisters will serve as the key witnesses for his trial. Chan Liu told this lady officer that this was just unjust. Q only punished those who were considered as scams of Earth. She then explained that even if that's the case, killing was still considered wrong. This little girl exclaimed that those who were killed were not even good citizens. Those guys destroyed thousands of lives. Commander Jian overheard their conversation and he butted in. He told Chan Liu that she's right about those guys, but even if they deserve the things that happened to them, Q still has no rights to do such things in his own hands. Chan Liu then asked him why the government didn't act when they already knew that these kinds of things were happening. This old man told her that sometimes there's darkness that can't be dispelled by light, and that there will always be a need for sacrifices. Chan Liu implied that it's not that they chose not to dispel darkness. It's just that they cannot. Commander Jiang told her that her personal rebellion was unjust, and she can't accept this statement. She shouted that the very existence of this world was a mistake. Zixi could only stare at her sister at that moment. They decided that they should just go home after that. Commander Jiang thought that if only Chan Liu could stand, she could then use her resentment to exterminate the monsters in this world. After some time, they arrived at their home. Zixi left Chan Liu alone as she still needs to clean their yard. Zixi will also try to find some solutions to help Q, but this girl had something else in her mind. She still can't accept how the real world works. She decided that if there were places that light can't reach, she'll be the beacon of this said light. Chan Liu managed to stand up once again. She was also able to take a few steps. Meanwhile, Zixi was still busy cleaning up, and then she saw her sister. This shocked Zixi because her sister had stood up, but something seemed off. Vines started to come out from Chan Liu's arms, and she asked her sister to start running. Meanwhile, at the headquarters of the security department, these guys were arguing because the notice on reducing their police force just came in. Commander Jiang personally set this meeting to tell it to them and ask for their ideas. But then he felt something. Commander Jiang was familiar with this aura that he just felt. He's sure that this aura was from the Great Ghost. These officers began to panic. They even asked their commander if he's not wrong. They thought that this calamity was defeated a long time ago. This old man then broke the glass in their office. He ordered his men to immediately evacuate all the people out of the city and activate the emergency military plan. Meanwhile, at the busy street of Da City, Things were going as usual. This man even noticed the spring because of these flowers. He thought that the spring came too soon, but these flowers started to bloom not because of spring. These plants released their pollen to the air. This bee got attracted and it was about to land on them. As soon as it touched the flower, it transformed. This guy's friend told him that it's now time to cross the street. But as he turned his head to his friend, something was already wrong. This guy just grew plants inside his body. His friend shouted and it alerted everyone near him. And this was the start of the disaster. One by one, people were turning into these plant monsters. This professional then came into the rescue. People started cheering for him. They thought they were now safe. This hero wielded his weapon and let out a huge slash. His attack managed to cut this huge pile of petals. It looked like he had killed the monster. But then his arms turned into vines as well. This monster that they were facing got this infectious pollen. And just by looking at this calamity, they already knew that this was a great obscenity. These officers were already on the move to stop this thing. Some of them even thought that this was not the great obscenity because instead of the bodies being rotted or disintegrated, they were turning into plants. Commander Jiang then told them that this phenomenon was called human flowers. He also warned his team that they should not underestimate these monsters because they could turn into more dangerous creatures. He ordered them to secure all the streets nearby and make sure that no one else will be infected by this monster. His team quickly went to their respective positions and carried out his order. At this street, people were still running because some of the human flowers were already devouring them. Commander Jiang shouted at them and ordered them to get on the ground. He took a deep breath and did a fireball jutsu. This old man could use fire magic and he just used a powerful one. The whole street got caught up in his attack. The human flowers were burnt. But it didn't stop the pollen from infecting other people. Commander Jiang then noticed that this monster really indeed has the same infection power as the Great Ghost. In just a few hours, Da City was nearly turned into ruins. The whole city was already enveloped with plants. The director even thought that this place was like a green hell. The soldiers were already struggling keeping off the vines. Commander Jiang also told his men to give up using their firepower towards these things as they were not being affected by it. Even a small debris from the body of these human flowers could infect a lot of people. The director then met up with this old man. He then confirmed that this calamity was really the great obscenity. The director was present when it attacked this city last time. The only reason that could explain its second coming was immortality. Commander Jiang told the director that there were some monsters that have this trait. But just like those demons who were being reborn, this monster would still need a lot of time to regain its full strength. The form that the great obscenity used this time was also different from its past form. Last time, it was all about destruction. Now, it's more like saving the planet from humans. The director also remembered something. He remembered that when Mask defeated this monster, he ordered the officials to make sure they could get rid of all the traces of this monster. These officials agreed to Mask's request, but as it turned out, they didn't do their end of the bargain. They even embezzled the money that Mask dedicated to the family of the victims. The director knew that this would not have happened if those officials did their responsibilities. Commander Jiang told him to just report this to him later because right now, they have more important things to do. He then asked his team where the strongest fluctuation of energy was coming from. The director already knew what this old man was trying to do. He intends to try and stop the monster all by himself. Commander Jiang told the director that he needed to do this while the monster was still weak. Right now, it hasn't even reached level 9 to 10. This was their only chance to defeat this all-powerful calamity that could wipe out mankind if it reached its peak power. If he delayed this any longer, the damage would also be massive. The director knew that there's nothing he could do to stop his boss. He then told him to just be careful. Meanwhile, at Star City, people started to receive the news about what's happening in Da City. It was immediately broadcasted and the reporters said that a calamity-level monster really attacked the city. The current state of the city was also being broadcasted live. Some of the people commenting were already looking for the hero they betrayed. They were kinda expecting that Mask would appear and save the day. Some of them also posted pictures on social media. After a while, new development had been reported. There's some news that Commander Jiang was already fighting the Great Obscenity. With his command, they were slowly turning the tide against these monsters. This was the live feed that was being broadcasted throughout the country. People could see Commander Jiang being chased by these huge vines. But then he suddenly stopped moving. Turns out, this old man reached his destination. He found the main culprit behind this disaster. He quickly recognized the face of this monster. This was the one who's responsible for all of these. The sister of Zixi, Chan Liu. Commander Jiang then told her to stop pretending. She's even using her majestic appearance to make people worship her. In the earlier days of the fight against monsters, there were also monsters who pretended to be God. They fooled the people and they started worshipping these false prophets. The director tried contacting his boss. He told him that the monster in front of him was the reincarnated form of the Great Ghost. Chan Liu was already gone. Commander Jiang didn't expect that just after a few hours from the time they met, she would transform into this very disaster. Chan Liu asked him if he regrets it, and as for the answer of this old, it was quite clear. He started gathering his power and shouted that he regrets that he didn't kill her at that time. Commander Jiang then made his move. He dashed towards Chan Liu. With his lightning speed, he quickly reached the monster. He was able to land a clean hit. The reporters covering this battle were impressed by his powers. They thought that Commander Jiang defeated the monster with just one attack. But as he turned his head around, he knew that his attack did nothing. Chan Liu started to regenerate. She told Commander Jiang that this was useless. After a few seconds, this monster had completely recovered. The reporters were also shocked. They didn't know what was really happening. The old man continued to attack again. He sent these lightning punches towards Chan Liu, and all of them landed. But because of her high-speed regeneration, his attempts were in vain. She asked the commander if this was the sunlight that could dispel darkness he was talking about last time. Commander Jiang suddenly felt the bloodlust around him. He immediately tried to gain some distance between them. But as he was still thinking about the immense danger he felt, he heard a voice behind him. He tried fleeing again, but the moment he stopped, Chan Liu was already behind him. This monster then started to make fun of the light that he was so proud about. He can't do anything about the power of this monster. He was clearly outclassed. Commander Jiang has nowhere to go, because this monster could just teleport its body as long as there were plants present. The director then told his boss that he needs to retreat for now. This match was too much even for him. He suggested that they should just launch a large-scale attack to destroy the whole area. But the commander told him that there's no way he could escape this thing now, since he had nothing to lose. Commander Jiang took off his cloak. He held his mask badge again and smiled. It reminded him of something. Chan Liu praised him because he didn't give up just yet. And by the looks of it, this old man became more powerful than before. The blue lightning around his body turned red. This was his last desperate move. A huge red lightning then hit his body. The old man was trying to overload his body with elemental attributes to boost his abilities even more. But all of the people knew that this technique has its consequences. It could take one's life after using it. Chan Liu also knew about this phenomenon and she praised him again because he just reached level 8 power with this move. The only downside was the cells all over his body were being overloaded with energy. And because they still can't handle it, cells were being destroyed eventually. But this old man doesn't care about all that anymore. With his improved speed, he dashed towards Chan Liu again. She thought that this was useless because she could just teleport herself instantly. But before she could even process her thought, her body was almost disintegrated. The old man was now faster than her thinking speed. With this, the old man was also running out of time. The cells in his body were already being destroyed. He's also experiencing a lot of pain in the process. This reporter was now happy again because he thought that Commander Jiang had finally defeated the monster. But this was not true. The energy coming from the Great Ghost had not yet disappeared and instead, it's steadily growing. The director then informed his men that this monster was not the Great Obscenity. He then told them about the creature named Antius. He was from the dark ages of the Greeks, and this creature was said to be invincible as long as the earth stands, and he concluded that this creature was Antaeus itself. It already got its powers from the people it absorbed, and as long as someone didn't eliminate it completely, it can't be defeated at all. The monster exists in all these vines and plants it created. She's one, but also 10,000. But his lackeys still didn't understand what their boss was telling them. A new emergency alert was then shown to them. The energy of this monster was rapidly increasing. It even reached the highest red secret realm energy. Chan Liu had become a level 9 monster, and she was still growing stronger. Back to these two. Chan Liu can't believe that humans could reach this kind of power just by sacrificing themselves. Once in her life, she also dreamed of becoming strong enough to protect the weak ones. She then asked Commander Jiang why he didn't use his power to protect those who were left in the dark. Professionals have left them hanging right when they needed them the most, and it made Chan Liu even furious. This was her constant question to the world. All of the human flowers and the vines around the city then retreated. They were now gathering towards a single point. Chan Liu has reached a new form. She's now as tall as the buildings around her. Commander Jiang appeared again and was about to answer her question. With all of his strength in his hands, he told her that it was because of this world. It was a world that made him accept that death was nothing new. With all his might, Commander Jiang attacked using his red lightning. Chan Liu thought that she could easily block this attack using one of her hands, but that was not the case. Commander Jiang managed to pass through. The people all around the country were watching his battle. They started cheering as soon as they saw that his attack went through. Chan Liu was still trying to stop this old man's attack, but after a while, the power that made him somewhat invincible started to fade. It's time for Commander Jiang. She now got him in her hands. She told him that since he told her that being dead and alive were nothing new to this world, he could now go to hell. Commander Jiang had this final look on his eyes, and then he was gone. He was turned into these petals that were now being swayed into the air. Chan Liu told him that this was what he got attempting the impossible. The director saw what happened. The energy of his boss also disappeared. As for those who were watching the live broadcast, they were all shocked, and it was at this moment they thought about the hero that they once took for granted. They were looking for Mask. It has been a month since he disappeared, and now they don't know what to do anymore. The reality had finally hit these pieces of sheets. Some of them now started bashing the ruling of their federal government. The most frequent question that arises again: where is Masker? Meanwhile, at this prison facility, alarms started to get off. They were alerted about the calamity-level monster that attacked the city. Q was in this place, and he was just waiting for the perfect time to act. As this was all happening, Yao was now in panic. He now can't even reach the heroes that promised to be under his command to protect the city. It's been 1.5 hours since the disaster happened, and he still got nothing. All the people around him were a bunch of scaredy cats. Someone then told Yao that he shouldn't have been that ruthless towards Mask in the first place, and this statement got him. Someone then suggested that they should just destroy the whole Da city once and for all. These guys were really too much. They were even proud about this idea of sacrificing a few for the sake of the many. Yao was now starting to see the true colors of these people. They don't care about the others at all. He can't believe that this was really happening. This guy broke the tension when he reported that there's something that changed the situation in Da City. Yao asked if someone sent a professional to save the city. But as the reports started coming, they heard this unusual thing. A monster had come to help the city. Back at the exclusive prison, this building had a huge slash now. The hole even reached the lower floors of the building. This guard was also in shock. He told his companion that he saw a monster coming out of the building. Back to the city, these soldiers were still guarding the area. They noticed that the human flowers were coming back again. Some of them started running because they knew that they didn't stand a chance against these monsters. But the rest still fulfilled their duty and tried defeating the human flowers. The captain of this squad was then getting absorbed by the vines. This guy tried saving his captain, but a black aura suddenly passed him. A series of slashes then destroyed the vines that's on its way. The soldier and his captain were now safe. Meanwhile, Chan Liu was still in her giant form. The reporters were about to retreat, but then something happened. This cameraman saw someone and thought that it was the reinforcements. A combination of red and black aura suddenly went straight into the center of the city. The people thought that this one was sent by the federal government. They hoped that this hero came sooner so that Commander Jiang didn't lose his life. This one has continued to slash his way towards the Great Ghost. But as people focused their attention on him, they saw his appearance. Our MC is now back and he's here to complete the quest that the system gave to him. He needs to defeat this calamity again, but with his monster form. Q quickly noticed something different between the past great obscenity and this present one. The last one represented destruction, but this one represented life. This new form intends to devour everything on its way. It also wanted to create a new world where there's no sadness and no pain. It's the newest form of ultimate evil. But regardless of what form this monster took, Q knew he still needed to defeat it. The core of this monster will help him fight the gods in the Void Realm. Our MC needs to do whatever it takes. Chan Liu then started her quest to conquer everything. She asked every living thing to go and merge with her. This monster has spread its vines once again. She has absorbed a lot of souls now, and she became one with them. But then, the orbs started to get popped one by one, and after a few moments, a large number of these orbs were gone. Chan Liu knew someone was killing her subordinates. She then saw this monster that was still slashing through her vines. Q had already recognized her face. The monster had manifested itself through Chan Liu. Regardless, our MC still ran towards her. Chan Liu didn't know that this monster was Q. She was also clueless what kind of monster this was. She tried getting rid of this monster off her. Q was just waiting for this opening. As soon as she raised her hand, our MC jumped. He performed 1,000 cuts. After this, he continued to approach her. These roses then appeared to stop Q. They explode as soon as someone gets near them. Luckily, Armak was fast enough to get past them. The cameraman continued on broadcasting this development to the public. This new monster was just too fast. This professional who was watching began to be scared. Every attack and explosion that this monster faced, it managed to dodge them. His speed, reaction time, insight, and agility were all out of the charts. The main reason why humans were still winning against the monsters was because they have the intelligence and wisdom. But now, a monster had emerged that showed the same kind of characteristics as a human. He's now worrying for the time when monsters will be able to surpass humans. Back to Q, he already got near Chan Liu. As he jumped towards her, he used one of his abilities again. The greatest monster that humanity will ever see just grew his pair of wings and was about to defeat the Great Ghost. He grew his own wings and this shocked Chan Liu. People were kinda confused because Q didn't use his wings immediately when those human flowers exploded. This professional then explained that this was a brilliant move because it was unexpected. This way, Q will have more chances of confusing the opponent. But these kinds of moves were also risky. Only those who were confident enough for themselves could try it in these kinds of battles. Our MC used the Blood Raven and slash into the air. It created this dark image of a bird that flew towards his opponent. It landed on its head. The cameraman was thrilled to see that Q's attack was effective. The human flowers who were running towards Chan Liu also stopped. This one thought that maybe this was the sign that they had won. But then these human flowers started talking. And they all have the same question. They were all asking who Q is. While recovering, Chan Liu also had the same question. After all, they were all connected to each other. She also asked this monster why he had the Blood Raven in his hands. Our MC didn't respond. Chan Liu then figured out that her opponent was also a monster. She then told him that the two of them didn't need to fight. The new form of the Great Ghost even offered her core to Q as long as they worked together. This is the core of the Great Ghost, and it can only be used by those who were recognized by this monster. Q thought that this offer was really tempting. Chan Liu continued to persuade Q to join her in destroying and cleanse the whole world. She told him that they could be the gap that this world needed. They could change everything. If there are places that can't be saved, they could just destroy and create a new one. This calamity really had a new perspective, but her mission was still the same. It was to destroy the world. The sound of thousands of human flowers echoed all over the place, and it was even felt by this cameraman up high. He's now worried because these monsters were now communicating to each other. Q kept quiet the whole time. Our MC had no intentions on working with anyone, be it with humans or with his fellow monsters. He only had one goal in his mind right now, and that's to kill all the monsters. Since he was not answering Chan Liu, she assumed that he disagreed. She then told Q that they should now decide who should stay in this world. Chan Liu made her first move. She used her explosion skill just like those human flowers. Our MC was able to block and protect his body against this. But then vines started to come after him. He got surrounded by it. Chan Liu just gained the upper hand this time. As soon as she recovered, she let out a loud scream. Meanwhile, our MC closed his gargoyle wings again, but he used the other form of it to destroy the vines around him. Chan Liu was about to shallow him. Luckily, he managed to dodge it. Q was also quick enough to go around her. He had already killed thousands of giants in his past life, and he knew where their weakness was. Somewhere in that huge body, they were hiding their true form, and since it was not inside their head, Q was sure where it was. Our MC continued to fly towards Chan Liu. He then used a blood raven again and slashed his way through this part. Vines kept on growing as they were trying to protect its main body. The great ghost even used its explosion skill again just to get rid of Q. Q was caught with this move, but he still persevered. He knew that this was his chance to defeat this calamity, and since it was really trying its best to protect this part, he knew this was the right spot. He kept on slashing his way through, and not long after, he saw something that was glowing inside. Q knew that this was it. He slashed the last layer, and then he saw this. It was the original body of Chan Liu. This girl purposely turned her body around, and the blood raven met her on. Chan Liu didn't expect this monster to do the impossible, but with his last attack, Q had no more energy left. He was already about to fall. The vines of this calamity monster stopped him from falling. She's now thinking what she should do about this monster in front of her. Chan Liu even praised Q for his handsome face behind his mask. Q didn't know what to feel. She then told him to just relax. She revealed that she already lost and she was just using her remaining energy to maintain this form. Since her huge body was still standing, the reporters thought that they had lost this battle. After that, he felt like his surroundings were shaking. Even the soldiers and civilians on the ground felt it. Then they saw this thing falling from the sky. It was a bright light, and it's heading down towards the city. It's a nuclear bomb. This move was approved by Hiao. This was his last resort. In the back of his mind, he regretted this decision. Chan Liu and Q saw this and immediately thought that these monsters were really heartless. They were willing to give up the civilians here. She then decided to do the right thing before she died. She wanted everyone to realize something. Chan Liu wanted to show them what kind of people were those in the government. The same people who betrayed Masked. She then headed back to her huge form. All of the human flowers started to move again and they were all connected as one. Chan Liu grew more. She extended her arms. It is as if they were huge branches that will cover the city from all the danger. The civilians saw this. The calamity-level monster turned herself into this huge tree. She blocked the nuclear weapon that was about to heat the city. And then all that they saw was this bright light. The human flowers were also disintegrated. Q was also caught from the impact of this explosion, but Chan Liu managed to cover him in her vines. She still protected him at the last second. This happened a few seconds after the nuclear weapon hit the city. The soldiers also tried their best to protect everyone by deploying this massive shield. After that, the people realized something. This calamity monster that was supposed to kill all of them just protected them from their government. At the headquarters, these guys reported to the director that the energy from the Great Ghost has already disappeared. This shocked the director. He also addressed Commander Jiang and told his soul that Da City was secured now. His sacrifice was not in vain. These guys still can't believe what they saw. They were saved by a monster. The huge tree also started to split open. As it was disappearing, it released these beautiful petals throughout the city. This lady tried catching some of it and thought that this scene was pretty. Someone warned her about these petals because it can turn her into monsters, but nothing happened. She didn't get mutated. Meanwhile, Q was with Chan Liu. He held her in his arms. Chan Liu woke up and told Q that this was the first time she realized that spring was indeed beautiful. And then, she slowly disappeared as well. With this, the mission of our MC has been completed. He defeated the reincarnation of the Great Ghost, and as for his reward, the core of the Great Ghost was delivered in his hands. It was like a green heart. The core changed its form because it's also the heart of Chan Liu. Q then equipped this core into his body. He absorbed all of its power, and right after that, Q was transported somewhere. He vanished in the middle of the city. People were all happy as DOS City's calamity was defeated. But as they all celebrated, these human flowers appeared once again. Then this happened. One by one, these humanoids turned into humans. These were all the people who were absorbed by the Great Ghost. These guys were amazed by what they saw, but then they slowly realized something. The human flowers that were killed by the nuclear weapon were all humans. With this, the propaganda of the government started once again. They spread misinformation on the internet. They even blamed Mask for this disaster. Some of these trolls even said that this move shouldn't have happened if Mask appeared right away. After that, all the information and news about this matter were deleted by the government. It is as if people were not allowed to voice out their opinions regarding this matter. These kinds of things were also happening in real life. It was really sad when we realized it. Meanwhile, these congressmen were back at it again with their meetings. They are now discussing the preventive measures they have taken with social media. They really made sure that people would still blame Mask for this disaster. Yao was still silent about what happened. Turns out, this man really planned things through. They suggested the nuclear weapon to kill thousands in the city and use it to get Yao's position. This guy then came in front and acted as Yao's spokesperson. He then told everyone that all of the people present in the meeting agreed on that nuclear weapon. But the main problem was how they could turn this disaster into an opportunity. He's really planning to pin everything to Mask. This guy then butted in that this plan was impossible because Mask was not even at present in the city. That same reason was what they will use to gain the vote of the people. They will spread news that implies that they were forced to do such a thing because Mask didn't come to rescue the city. He also wanted to add that after all the resources that humanity had given to Mask, he still didn't take the responsibility to act as their hero. This guy was really pure evil. He's an expert on ruining someone's image to make themselves look good. All the people inside the room were speechless. After that, Yao and this man were left inside the room. He assured Yao that everything was now under his control, but Yao revealed that he was not worried about that. This incident made him realize that humanity was still not ready to take on the monsters. Their manpower was still lacking. He then asked this guy about the preparation of their new experiments called Morning Sun. This guy reported that after hundreds of attempts, they have now seen some successful subjects. Some of the bodies were able to maintain their monster forms for a long period of time. He told Yao that sooner or later, their attempt to fuse humans and monsters will be successful. He also told his president that they will be the ones to ascend mankind into new heights. Soon, humanity will be able to reach everything, even the gods. This is the map where the battle between humans and monsters was happening. This vast lands area was up to millions square kilometers. It was also said that this made up part of Africa, South America, and all of Antarctica. This is where Mask was assigned last time. He led the people here. But monsters were coming everywhere. It was like their den, and thus, this place was called the birthplace of calamity. This was the source of all the monsters. The only man that opened this place again for humanity was Mask. He was able to withstand the wrath of the gods and even defeat them. Right now, this was the state of that place. These 4 men were waiting outside this portal in this dense forest. They were here because they had something to report to their captain. After a few seconds, a silhouette appeared in the portal. Their captain's power was too exceptional. This secret realm in front of them was a level 7 dungeon and their captain managed to clear it in just 30 minutes. This right here is their captain. and she's considered as one of the geniuses in this world. She asked her men why they all have weird expressions. This guy then proceeded to report to his captain. It's about the disaster that hit the DOS city. She asked if the problem was resolved. It was resolved, but it cost them the life of her father, Commander Jiang. After hearing this, she walked out and told her team that they should go to the next realm now. All of them were left speechless. The death of her father seemed not to affect her with her mission. These men were all concerned about their captain's mental state. This lady could control lightning attributes freely, but her nickname was Immovable Ice. This was because of her cold emotions. Their captain heard them talking about her and scolded them. In these areas, secret realms spawns faster. Professionals like them don't have much time to rest. And this is why strong teams were assigned to clear more dungeons than everyone else. Captain Jian always clears the secret realm all by herself. But this time, these men asked her if she wanted them to come. They do have a point. They needed to fight as well so that they could get stronger. But these statements just made Captain Jian feel that they were just doubting her skills. Her team immediately backed off. She then went inside the portal all by herself. Instead of being annoyed about it, these guys praised their captain even more. It would take someone with a lot of mental state to accept that her father just died and still continued to hunt monsters. They viewed her more like the monsters that didn't have any motion at all. This is what's inside the secret realm. Captain Jiang just went in without any fear or hesitation. She stopped walking because she saw something. There were bodies of monsters in front of her and they were all defeated. She initially thought that these monsters were killed by a small team, but all of their wounds were inflicted by the same kind of weapon. This meant that they were all defeated by one person. Captain Jian heard something ahead and she quickly dashed towards it. She then saw this huge humanoid shark that was ready to attack. These monsters were attacking this guy. Captain Jian immediately knew that this guy was a low-level professional, but all of his movements were exquisite. Even if he had fatal injuries with him, he was still able to dodge, block, and counterattack all at the same time. This is where she thought she should come in. With her lightning speed, she appeared in front of the humanoid sharks. She was also able to defeat these monsters with just one hit, and after a few seconds, 3 monsters were already on the ground. Captain Jiang didn't waste any more time and asked this guy what team he belonged to, but she didn't get any response. The guy that was in this secret realm was RMC. After enduring this intense fight, Q's body gave up and he lost consciousness. Captain Jiang was a bit disappointed because she thought she found someone she could respect in terms of power. More monsters then started coming in. These guys were all high-leveled. She now didn't have any choice but to defeat these monsters. She wielded her spear and enveloped it with her lightning skill. Captain Jiang also remembered her father. He died fighting these monsters. This lady was furious because of what happened, and she channeled her outrage towards these monsters in front of her. Outside the portal, her men were still waiting for her. They were now starting to worry because their captain took a little longer to clear this dungeon. But then, the portal started reacting. This meant that their captain was coming out. Captain Jiang came out, but she was carrying another man on her shoulders. Her men quickly asked her what happened and who's this guy with her. Their team transported Q to this facility called N5. This is where professionals camped out and regrouped after their battles in the secret realms. There's also a high-end hospital here. Professional healers were somewhat rare. That's why those fully trained doctors were assigned here. Q was brought to this facility. His vitals were also all good. The doctor was also amazed at his recovery speed. His body received too much damage, but he still survived. If it were normal people, they would have died on the spot. Captain Jiang was told that Q's ability was too exceptional. Q's body was also filled with radiation. That's where he got the scar on his face right now. The doctor also advised Captain Jiang that they will monitor him further for the radiation, but as for his overall health, Q was out of danger. After that conversation, this man came in. This was the Supreme Commander of Army Camp N3. He was Liang Zhenghai. Captain Jiang immediately stood up. Commander Liang turned out to be her mentor. Commander Liang went to see Captain Jiang because he wanted to talk about her father. The government paid their special tributes to those who sacrificed for the sake of humanity. He told Captain Jiang that her father died honorably, but she didn't say anything. He then further consoled her. The media wanted to interview the daughter of the hero, but her mentor did her a favor and declined the offer. He told Captain Jiang that his father's decision was reasonable, and he would have done the same thing if he's the one in there. Before leaving, he told her that she should ask Q for some information about why he's inside the secret realm. This guy also noticed the sword that Q was wielding. He said that anyone who could use this sword was interesting enough. She then asked him about the sword, but then the commander already left the room. Right now, she has no choice but to wait for Q to wake up. After a while, Q opened his eyes. Q quickly scanned his surroundings. Captain Jiang felt something with his gaze. She backed out and held her weapon immediately. That brief moment was the first time she felt threatened by someone. After he assessed the situation he was in, Q calmed down. He told Captain Jiang that she can now remove the Roman 4 bag on him. Q sat down and asked her where he was. He found out that he's inside the end series of camps. He also introduced himself to her as she was the one who brought him out of the secret realm. After that quick small talk, the room was silent again. Their attention was now on the television. News outlets were back at it again with their propagandas against Mask. The government was still expecting Mask to do his responsibility as a hero. Jiang was somewhat satisfied with what's happening. She knew that the government was now restless because they were putting the blame on Mask again. She was also amazed about the fact that even if this hero was gone, he was still being targeted by these congressmen. Jiang told Q that even though she doesn't know his identity, he was free to stay here as long as he didn't create any trouble. She even praised Q's skills, but she made sure that she would be the one to face him in case she needed to. Our MC then answered that she will not be able to do it. He told her that she can't beat him. Captain Jiang got furious but kept quiet because she knew that his statement was true. She let this thing off. And since Q could even talk to her like that, she expects that this man could recover more quickly and get back to hunting monsters again. She told him that she doesn't really have that much time, so she will be onto her next secret realm. Outside the room, her team was waiting for her. They all asked for information about Q. These men were quite curious because Commander Liang personally went inside his room. They were also asking what team that man belongs to because this was the first time they've seen him. The only thing they got from their captain was the name of this strange man. They also noticed that their captain was annoyed after talking with Q. And speaking of the devil, Q came out of his room. They all told our MC that it was too soon for him to go. Q was already heading towards the secret realm. As for his true health conditions, the core of the Great Ghost was acting out. It still needed more time to settle in and it was demanding Q for more life force. Our MC needs to kill more monsters and absorb them to fully heal his body. Jiang's team was still trying to stop him from immediately going to the secret realm, but someone stopped them. It's Commander Liang. He told them that Q could do whatever he wanted to do. Clearing secret realms was beneficial to them after all, and since he's the commander in this camp, no one could oppose his decision. Our MC just stared at Commander Liang and this man did the same. It's as if they understood each other. The team of Captain Jiang was then divided into two. They will be following both Jiang and Q on their missions. Meanwhile, this lady was already at the gate of the camp. Her team caught her attention and told her that they were split into two. These two reported what happened with Q and Commander Liang. They were also confused because this was the first time they saw their commander having a friendly aura. Jiang confirmed that Q went out immediately as soon as he was able to stand up to clear the secret realms. Her expression changed after hearing this information. She then told her team to not worry because that man could take care of himself. After that, they went on their way towards their next dungeon. As for Q's team, the two men who joined him were already talking to him too much. They told Q a lot of things about their captain. They also asked Q if he has some special connection with their commander because he let him clear secret realms right away. He then told him that the two of them didn't have any connections. They then told Q some information about this legendary commander of theirs. They told him that Commander Liang has this sharp vision. He has a thing on seeing talents towards people, and he could also use this vision to see in the dark. Commander Liang has also reached level 8 professional. Some even claim that he has what it takes to go to level 9. This man also managed to be with Mask in the front lines. Their team back then was called Repelling Monsters Army. And that's the one he got to fight with Mask. Q remembered the Repelling Monster Army. He wondered how many years it had been since. This specific mission was the one where no one recognized Q's ability to lead them. He led 3,000 professionals to the front lines. This was also the first time they managed to claim some lands from the monsters. This place back then was still overflowing with monsters. They were everywhere, and after losing countless lives fighting these monsters, the repelling team managed to successfully build their first base in these vast lands. More bases were then built in these areas, all because Mask led them. They were also able to reduce the numbers of the monsters. This was also the era where the frontliners were born. After a while, Q's team had already arrived in front of the portal. These two who came with him were now excited because it has been a while since they got to enter a dungeon. Q turned his head and told them that they didn't have to help him with this. Like Captain Jiang, Q intends to clear this dungeon all by himself. Our MC went in and he was transported to this place. A strong smell of monsters met his nose. He was somewhat happy finding out that this secret realm was full of monsters, because with this, he could do whatever he wanted and kill every monster he sees. Q was then met with these wolf-like monsters. Our MC bravely walked towards them. He told himself something. Because his body hasn't really fully recovered, he could only maintain his monster form for 3 minutes. But this was more than enough to clear this dungeon. Q vanished from the visions of these wolves. The next thing they knew was that they were already slashed off. Q took out 4 of them in a flash, and then the bodies of these wolves started to turn to energy. These orbs were then absorbed by Q. This was the power of the Great Ghost. And right now, he was also able to use this overpowered skill. As long as he could absorb life forces, Q could heal his body. Meanwhile, these two were still waiting for Q outside the portal. They were even joking that if they went in, they would find Q's body lying around. They didn't think that Q was powerful enough to clear the secret realm. But then the portal started acting up. Our MC came out. He was safe and sound. He didn't even have a single wound. These two can't believe what they just witnessed. Q was able to defeat all the monsters inside the realm, including the boss. These monsters were so weak that he didn't notice that there was a boss monster inside. Q showed them the item drops from the boss. This will serve as his proof that he cleared the dungeon. Our MC cleared a level 5 secret realm in just 17 minutes. He was faster than their captain. Jiang's best clear time was about 30 minutes. This was a clear statement on just how powerful Q was compared to Captain Jiang. After that, Q told them that they should head to the next secret realm now. He cleared the next one immediately. Q didn't stop until they ran out of time clearing these realms. As for Captain Jiang's team, they arrived at this portal too late. Based on the footprints that they saw, someone has already cleared this dungeon. This was the 4th or 5th dungeon that was defeated even before they arrived. The only team that left the camp was the team of Q. And they thought that it was impossible for Q to clear this many dungeons in such a short period of time. This guy was somewhat annoyed because someone was beating them into clearing these dungeons. Captain Jiang told them that they really can't be bothered. She was even relieved because someone was helping them do it. But the truth is, she already wanted to know who was the professional that seemed to challenge her. At the army camp N3, all the professionals who cleared the dungeons were required to submit a report and turn away all the items they got from it. This way, it will be easier for them to turn these items into weapons. Professionals could also exchange the merits they were receiving to various rewards inside the camp. Captain Jiang and her team were back, and she saw this team that cleared 17 secret realms in just one day. The executive in charge was even arguing if this claim was true because it was nearly impossible. To prove this achievement to him, Q's team gave all the treasure rewards they got from it. Their bag was full of rare boss items and materials. This ended his disbelief. He can't just quickly believe this because even Captain Jiang didn't achieve something like this. This guy told him that these secret realms were all a piece of cake to Q. He was even appointed by the Supreme Commander himself. With this executive told Q that they want him to check and clear the level 6 secret realm near N1. This camp has already lost 2 teams within this realm. Our MC quickly accepted the mission. He then boasted again that Q will clear this dungeon in no time. After all, he was more powerful than Captain Jiang. As he said these words, the executive told him to look behind. Captain Jiang was standing right behind him, and she's not in a good mood. He then quickly tried to make an alibi to appease his captain. This guy also confirmed that the dungeons they went to were all cleared by Q based on the list they have submitted. Jiang asked Q if he did this all by himself and our MC said yes. She praised him because he has the skills to back up his confidence in taking these realms. With her competitive attitude kicking in, she also asked the executive that she will be taking the level 6 secret realm mission as well. Captain Jiang formally challenged Q. Whoever kills the boss monster first will be the winner. After that, Jiang's team left. This bald man congratulated Q because he was successful in bringing out their captain's competitive side. Our MC checked the details about the next realm he was about to clear and he understood why they wanted him to take the lead with this one. He also remembered something about the past that was about to happen in the front line soon. As he was thinking about these details, this guy noticed something. He stared at Q's face and sword. They looked familiar. This guy finally remembered where he had seen Q before. Meanwhile, at the command center of Camp N3, Commander Liang just found out that the Shao Q they rescued in the secret realm was the same man that slaughtered the Kaijiang investment company. The one who reported it was this blonde guy. They were kinda confused because it's impossible for someone to travel from Da City to the front lines in just a day. But this blonde guy was sure about it. All of the features matched. The main deal breaker was the sword of Q. They were too identical and it was impossible to replicate that kind of sword. They also thought that maybe Q escaped the prison while the Great Ghost was attacking the city. Even if the travel time was impossible, he still believed that he's right. Commander Liang then concluded that after their mission tomorrow, he will personally meet Q and find things out for himself. As for this man, he ratted out Q because he wanted a promotion. The next day, Captain Jiang and her team were already in front of this portal. These guys were bugging their captain to let them help as well. She knew that these guys were concerned about her because this realm had already taken 2 teams. She walked towards the portal, but before entering, she told her team that they should make sure that they could keep up with her. Our MC was also present. Jiang told him that the 2 of them shouldn't interfere with each other's fight. This guy came in last because he was still waiting for the commander to arrive. The portal transported their team to this dark tunnel. This guy used his skill. He reported that all things seemed normal. There's no traps in front of them. After walking for a while, they started to feel the heavy pressure. This made them stop. At the other side of the tunnel, these deadly eyes started to appear. A horde of crocodile monsters were now rushing towards them. This was the difficulty of a level 6 secret realm. Captain Jiang took a step forward. She raised her weapon and used her lightning skill. Her lightning blast was just too powerful. It covered the whole tunnel and it disintegrated all the monsters along the way. With just one attack, she defeated all of them. Her team started praising their captain. She humbly told them that she was just able to do that because all the monsters were lined up in a straight line. This bald guy used this to tease and challenge our MC to also do his best. Q still can't understand the importance of this said competition. After that, they continued to walk towards the tunnel. But something was strange. Captain Jiang was hoping that they should have seen the bodies of the defeated teams along the way. The other guy suggested that maybe the bodies were caught with her attack last time and it left no traces. While they were busy talking, someone interrupted them. This guy was now leaning on the wall and was trying to hear something. After that, they all heard a loud growl and it alerted the whole team. The ground also started to shake. A huge crocodile monster appeared in front of them. This monster was so big that it could block the whole passage with its body. Captain Jiang was kinda disappointed with her team because they got scared so easily. But then she also noticed something. The monster was also feeling fear all over its body. Captain Jiang really can't be bothered with these petty tricks. She dashed towards the monster with her spear. Meanwhile, Q maintained his composure. He wielded his sword and was about to attack as well, but his target was different. Our MC attacked the ground with Blood Raven. The huge crocodile opened its mouth and was about to attack Captain Jiang, but its mouth was met with her powerful lightning attack. Jiang then checked her team after defeating the monster. She saw Q with his sword on the ground. His attack was so strong that it created cracks all over the place. Our MC then pulled out his weapon, and it revealed another crocodile that was making its way underground. Q also took down this monster with only one attack. He also regrets coming into this realm with this team because he can't use his monster form to absorb the life force of these monsters. Meanwhile, these guys were shocked. They didn't have a single idea that there's a monster underground. Captain Jiang then went back to her team and asked Q how he found out about the second monster. She knew that she had fixed her attention to the monster in front of them, and if it wasn't for Q, her team would have been gone right now. Q told her that it was because of the shaking in the ground. And for these kinds of realms, it's not impossible for monsters to make their way underground. This guy still can't believe it. His powers let him detect monsters. He used it and he didn't feel the one on the ground. Q kept quiet. He doesn't know how to explain that his senses were too sensitive. In his past life, he could even detect the demon gods traveling by tearing the space and time. After this encounter, the team praised the two of them because they defeated the boss monster of this dungeon. But then Captain Jiang revealed that these monsters were not even the boss ones. There's no treasure chest beside them after they were defeated. The teleportation array was also not present. The team now wonders what kind of monster the boss is. Captain Jiang reminded her team to keep up and stay close. These guys quickly apologized because they felt useless in this mission. But she didn't care about this at all. This was not their fault. This realm was just too much for them to handle. After that, they saw this huge door at the end of the tunnel. They immediately knew that this must be the door that leads to the boss monster. Captain Jiang knew that this would be dangerous. Only she and Q will enter this room. The rest of the team will be left behind and guard the entrance. Both Q and Jiang held the knob and turned them around. They both entered the boss room. As soon as they were in, the door was shut down. These two continued walking. Captain Jiang was the first one to react. She heard light footsteps. These were coming from this monster. A humanoid lizard. Jiang noticed that it's a humanoid kind again. She wondered why most of the realms now were flooding with these types of monsters. The lizard then prepared itself for the battle. Jiang knew that this monster had already accumulated a lot of power. But it didn't stop her from doing the first move. She wielded her weapon and jumped towards the monster. Q just stood there and observed her fighting style. The speed of her spear already surpassed the speed of sound. But this monster was able to hold her weapon. This shocked Captain Jiang. Jiang was tossed to the ground by this monster. It was a clean hit, but she recovered faster. She held her gun and pointed it to the monster. This was a special type of gun that lets her lightning skill be used as its source of power. With that, the humanoid lizard was defeated. This fight was short, but it was intense. Q told Jiang that her way of fighting was too dangerous, but this was just her way of giving her best. Someone couldn't expect the best result without risking their lives into this mission. While they were talking, something caught Jiang's attention. She saw the humanoid monster's bodies, and this one has a human body inside it. And it was a guy from the previous teams that raided this realm. She quickly inspected the corpse and wondered how he was turned into this. At that moment, she knew that something was really wrong about the secret realms. More humanoid lizards then appeared in front of them. Jiang will take care of the one on the left side and our MC will take care of the other side. The lizards made their way to them. These two dashed towards them as well. Captain Jiang led the charge and jumped. She charged her weapon with her lightning skill and heat the ground with it. This was enough to make the monsters lose their balance and be vulnerable with her attacks. One humanoid lizard was able to sneak and make a sudden move, but Jiang was able to block it. She spun her spear and finished the job. These poor monsters didn't even have a chance. Captain Jiang still recognized their strengths because, after all, these were her former companions in the army camp. The only thing that's lacking in these monsters is intelligence. She also checked the status of Q. This guy was doing well. He's easily defeating the monsters around him. All of his movements were precise. After a while, only 2 humanoid lizards were left. Captain Jiang also confirmed that all of these lizards were indeed the professionals that went missing in this secret realm. Something caught Q's attention. There's these huge poles behind the lizards. It started reacting and the lizards also turned their heads around. These monsters started worshipping these poles. Captain Jiang thought that these monsters were trying to summon something. An ominous aura was released around it. A face also appeared right in front of them. Jiang saw this face, and just by looking at it made her almost lose her breath. She knew that she can't let these monsters summon this thing. She threw her spear towards the monsters, and it was able to land onto them. After that, these red eyes started to fade. The altar also disappeared in the process. Jiang quickly asked Q about what just happened. Q knew that those eyes belonged to a demon god that lives in the void, and it's looking at him. Our MC knew who this demon god was. After that intense fight, Captain Jiang's team had successfully cleared the secret realm. They also went out of the portal. Her team started to celebrate and praise these two, but Jiang seemed to be more concerned about what happened inside. She's not even happy about it. This made these 4 into thinking. But then someone spoke then caught their attention. It was the Supreme Commander. This guy went with this army of men with him. Some of the guys were confused because their boss came with the law enforcement team. He then told them not to worry because this matter doesn't concern them at all. This matter was related to our MC. Commander Liang has finally revealed the true identity of Q. He was the same man who committed a crime in Da City. This shocked everyone except for the blonde guy. Things then started to make sense. They started to remember the face of Q on the television. This guy was proud about what he discovered. He warned his teammates about Q, but our MC had no intention of hiding this fact. He introduced himself again to everyone. He was indeed the same man in Da City. The blonde guy was happy because Q admitted this piece of information. Q now asked the commander if he will transfer him back to Star City. According to the laws of their government, all convicted criminals should be sent to the atonement camp. But this man had something else planned. He told everyone that that rule doesn't apply in this army camp anymore. This statement confused these soldiers. The commander then told Q that he already looked at his crime and if he was also in his situation, he would have done the same thing. Commander Liang even praised our MC for what he did. After that confrontation, he ordered everyone to keep this matter to themselves. And if someone would spread these rumors about Q again, that person will be forced to leave the army camp. All of the people present there seemed to understand the situation. As for Captain Jiang, she wanted to talk with her commander privately. This move made the others anxious. They were sure that it was about something that Q and their captain discovered in the secret realm. Captain Jiang reported everything. She then asked her mentor if he knew anything about those monsters and why they were worshipping something inside the realm. Commander Liang knew it and he told her that it was a monster god. She was shocked to find out that monsters have gods. He then told her that there had been a lot of professionals who tried their best to get rid of all the secret realms in this world. But humanity always failed to do so. This was because they have not defeated the source of these monsters. Regardless if they cleared all the realms in this world, new ones will always appear as long as the monster gods were present. She then asked him where to find these monster gods and how to defeat them. One example of the monster gods was the one she saw inside the realm. These gods were too powerful. The calamity-level monsters can't even be compared to their power. They were the ones who sat on the top of the food chain. Jiang found out that a fraction of these gods' power could make humanity extinct. Commander Liang told her that humanity did its best to fight off these gods. Someone even reached their level and killed one or two, and the only one who managed to do that was Masked. He then added that since an altar was found, the monsters would soon start rioting. And after some time, there will be a sea of monsters in this area if they will not be dealt with. The appearance of altars means that the monster gods were on the move. If the phenomenon called Sea of Monsters occurs, thousands of monsters will be flooding this place, and all the army camps in the vast land will disappear without a trace. Jiang remembered the times when Mask was still in here. She thought that they would have a chance against it, but now it's impossible. Commander Liang then advised everyone to not come near the secret realms as they were still unstable. He also gave Captain Jiang a time to relax because ever since she came in this place, she acted like a robot killing monsters. He also told her to bring Q with her when she delivers the information to the other camps. As for his last request, he told Jiang to get RMC a mask to hide his face. Others might not be comfortable around him if they found out about his secret. Xiao Q will get to wear a mask again. After that incident, the team of Captain Jiang was tasked to deliver something to the other camps. They were now inside this armored train. All of them were chilling inside, including our MC that's with his new mask. The bald guy asked Q how's his first time riding the train. He boasted that this vehicle was the most reliable transportation tool in this desert. The others scolded him because he kept on saying this information to all the newbies they bonded with. Soon, they will also reach another army camp called M2. These guys were tasked to deliver important information. As they were trying to rest, the train suddenly felt a major bump. They looked outside and found another car beside them. Captain Jiang's team immediately reacted and prepared for the worst-case scenario. They thought that maybe this team was from M2 and now they were trying to flee from the monsters that had escaped the portal. Some of the secret realms have a time limit, and if the professionals fail to clear it on time, monsters will start flooding out. These guys were still trying their best to run for their lives. One of them also tried to kill the monsters behind. They were being chased by these wolves. This realm was flooded by monsters. One of the professionals in this team even killed more than 30 of them, but still they were outnumbered. He also realized that he ran out of arrows to use. A wolf managed to jump towards their car, but it was hit by a bullet. These guys then saw the armored train beside them. The built-in machine gun in the train aimed for something. It purposely hit the tires of their vehicle. This caused the truck to crash, but at the same time, this bird monster was already on top of them. This crash saved them from being a target of this monster. The armored train then hit the monster. The professionals were now safe. After that incident, the armored train continued its way towards them. Q and Captain Jiang's team were also on their way towards the monsters. This guy warned them about the numbers of these beasts, but then he was held speechless. In a swift motion, Captain Jiang and Q killed most of the wolves. The others provided support. Their teamwork was perfect. These guys were just too powerful. They handled this matter in just a few seconds. This guy quickly recognized the strength of Q and Jiang. After dealing with these monsters, Captain Jiang told her team to treat the survivors and get them on the train. The others will also harvest the materials from these monsters. The professionals on the other team then thanked the N3 team for their help. These guys already knew that they were from N3 because of their captain. She was quite popular and they have heard about her even in these areas. As for Q, they were not familiar with him. The bald guy then introduced Q to them. He told the other team that Q just got assigned lately. Captain Jiang's team found out that these guys were originally 15. But now, only 3 of them survived. This was because of the sudden increase of monsters inside the secret realms. Some of the secret realms near them also had their seals broken. That's why they got outnumbered. They have already expected some realms on having weak seals, but they all got broken all at the same time. Jiang thought that this may be the sign that the Sea of Monsters was coming. She then decided that they should hurry and get to M2 camp first. Meanwhile, at the M2 army camp, these two were scouting the area around the base. One of them noticed that a lot of teams from their camp were going out to clear the realms, but none of them have returned yet. This guy then told him that maybe they were just taking their time to clear the secret realms. As he was scouting the area, This one saw something. An armored train was heading towards them. One of them signaled a red flag to notify the train to slow down as they needed to inspect it first. But the train didn't follow the protocol. The train went straight inside. It crashed into the walls of the army camp. All of the soldiers immediately went to see what happened. The train's door opened and something came out. It's the body of a professional. The soldiers then met the culprit. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. In front of them was a humanoid insect. More doors of the train opened, and these monsters started coming out. They were like huge locusts and they started attacking. Because this was a surprise attack, they didn't have much time to react properly, and not long after, the M2O army camp was already in chaos. This monster led an army of insects to destroy this base. This was a new form of monsters. Meanwhile, at the armored train of Captain Jiang, one of the professionals reported that M2O was being attacked by monsters. A level 7 professional in that base got defeated easily by these beasts. This was the first time monsters dared to attack a human base. Something's wrong. Captain Jiang was not that surprised if the level 7 commander died in that attack. She thought that this was from the sea of monsters they were expecting to come. But then she was still shocked when she saw the state of the M2O camp. It was already burning to the ground. A radio report was then sent to all the nearby bases. It reported that M2O camp was being attacked by monsters. The people that were still alive were asking for backups. It also reported that their commander had been killed and soon the M2O army camp will fall as well. As they approached closer to the base, all of them could see the massive damage. The monster's attack has destroyed the M2 camp. Captain Jiang's thought that this might be the sea of monsters that they should be preparing for. With this, she ordered everyone to keep charging towards the M2 camp. The bald guy warned his captain about the monsters that were lurking in there. But she doesn't intend to fight the monsters. All she wanted was to look and save the people who survived the attack. This soldier was starting to get furious. He remembered the times when Mask was still there. These kinds of things didn't happen. He's now blaming the people who exiled the greatest hero. It's like the monsters knew that Mask was gone. After that realization, all of them went silent. The bald guy then tried to break this and lighten up the mood. He told them that Q was now wearing a mask and if they look eagerly, Q looks like the greatest hero. The others quickly agreed. Even the way he stands, this guy really looked like Mask. He then approached Q and jokingly asked if he was Mask. Since our MC has no sense of humor, he answered the question truthfully. He told them that he really is Mask. His serious expression made them all quiet. They then thought that Q was just kidding. Some of them even asked for some autographs. Captain Jiang also joined in. She told Q that she hopes that this man could really live up to her idol's name. Meanwhile, the whole M2 camp was still burning. These monsters were still lurking and guarding the area. Captain Jiang could see these monsters from afar and she wondered if these were really the ones that made M2 fall. And then, she saw a group of people running from a horde of monsters. These guys were the only ones who survived the attack. Captain Jiang's team met them outside. They also provided some support and made sure that no monsters could come near these fleeing survivors. This lady also wielded her weapon again and enveloped it with her lightning skill. She positioned herself and threw the weapon with all her might. This hit all the insect monsters that were on its way. The additional lightning skill also did something. The spear exploded mid-air and it got all the monsters that were chasing the survivors. Lots of them got burned. Seeing this, the monsters started to back off. Captain Jiang approached these survivors and asked them about the situation of the camp. This guy told her that the M2 camp had fallen, and he warned them not to go near the camp because even their commander died fighting these insects. He told them that there's one monster that was leading all of its kind. It's also an insect but in a humanoid form. It's also too powerful and was able to defeat their commander in just a matter of half a minute. The survivors insisted that they should not go near the camp, but Captain Jiang had been silent the whole time. She then did something unexpected. This shocked everyone. Captain Jiang then revealed that these men in front of them were not the real soldiers of M2 camp. They are the convicts from the Atonement camp. These guys didn't expect they would hear these words from her. The other guys in her team didn't really care about it because right now, They need all the help they could get. Also, the survivors denied these allegations. But the problem was these guys have killed the professionals that were escorting them while fleeing from the monsters. All of their equipment doesn't match. Even their weapons. The wound on his left ear was also not from the monsters. These guys then exchanged some looks as soon as their secret was revealed. They quickly dashed towards Captain Jiang, but she was already prepared. She swung her weapon and it took down these two prisoners. As for the other one, it tried running away. He also thought that he should use the civilians as his way to escape this situation. But his vision turned upside down. A sword has already got him. This sword was the Blood Raven. It was from Q. This guy from the M2 camp also confirmed that he was not familiar with any of these three. And with all of that gone, they will not go to M2 camp anymore. This guy also approached his captain and told her about their current problem. The boiler of the train broke down while they were traveling at full speed a while ago. Someone then raised a hand. She said that if the problem was a mechanical issue, she could go and take a look. After a while, the boiler was working again. This lady fixed it in no time. She was only a student, but her skills were already on par from those of a high-level mechanic. Captain Jian asked her name. This lady right here introduced herself as Evelyn Clark, and she aspires to become the best mechanic ever. With the help of Evelyn, the train started moving again. Their team also started planning their next move. Since they can't go to M2 now, they were planning to head towards Army Camps L4 and Y5. L4 camp was much closer than the other one and it will only take them 2 days to go there. But the problem is they needed to go past M2 and it was just too risky. So everyone agreed that they should just go to Y5 even if it will take them 5 days. Q and Evelyn insisted that they should just head towards L4. The mechanic also raised the issue that they won't have enough fuel to last for 5 days. Since running out of fuel in the middle of the desert was not an option, they will now head to L4. Our MC was still chilling around the corner. He was then asked by someone why he was insistent on going towards L4. This one was Captain Jiang. She doesn't believe that Q happened to know about their fuel situation. Q remembered something from his past identity. This scene also happened in the first one to fall was the Y5 camp. He knew that this base was already full of monsters by now. He then decided not to give her any answer. After that, Captain Jiang asked Q another question. It was about her father. Since her father was the one who arrested Q, she asked what kind of person he was. Q only told her that her father was a righteous person. This answer was too vague, but for Captain Jiang, it was already enough. Meanwhile, the M2 camp was still burning to the ground. This humanoid insect was also chilling. It was even holding a newspaper. This monster could also speak, and then it stood up. He saw a train that was passing right by their camp. This monster knew that there's some humans inside this train. He then spread its wings and flew right towards the train. The other insects on the camp also started following its lead. The soldiers inside the train were trying to calm the civilians down. They told them that this train was full of trained professionals that could easily protect them from trouble. This guy then looked outside and told everyone that the smoke from the M2 base was still getting larger. But one of the civilians told him that it was not smoke. The one they were seeing was a horde of monsters coming in their way. And among these monsters was this humanoid one. Captain immediately knew that they were in trouble. This humanoid insect was the one who killed the commander of M2 base camp. And she's not sure if she could handle such a monster. The humanoid insect also saw Captain Jiang. This monster knew that it should get rid of these humans right away. It then grabbed one of the insects flying and got one of its legs. It positions itself as if he was also locked onto something. The monster threw the leg towards the train, and it hit the wheels of the train. The train immediately lost its balance and started to crash. Some of the civilians inside got thrown outside the train, including Evelyn. Luckily, someone was quick enough to rescue them. The first ones to react were Q and Captain Jiang. After rescuing Evelyn, these two proceeded to their next task, and that was to prevent the train from falling. These two pushed the train with all their might to save it, and with that, the train was back to its normal position again. Evelyn couldn't believe what happened. 2 professionals were able to push a 10,000-ton train just like that. The people inside the train were also all safe. Captain Jiang also ordered everyone to defend the train at all costs. She also ordered Evelyn to start checking the train for damages and repair it as soon as possible. Captain Jiang knew that the train was now more important than the lives of some civilians. This train was their only way to escape these hordes of monsters in front of them. She then used her same move that defeated lots of monsters a while ago. It was the attack using her weapon as a medium to transfer her lightning skill mid-air. Captain Jiang started killing these monsters. The soldiers from the M2 camp can't believe that this lady was only a level 6 professional. They knew that Captain Jiang was even more powerful than their commander in M2 camp. The other guys also started helping her to reduce the number of the monsters. Meanwhile, this one was just watching them struggle. One of the civilians pointed this monster out. It was the one who killed the commander. Captain Jiang suddenly felt the pressure coming from this humanoid insect. She jumped and was already about to attack the monster. But as soon as she released her attack, the monster seemed to fade away. She knew that the one she hit was just an after image. This monster's speed was just too fast. The monster then attacked Captain Jiang. The attack was too powerful and it sent her down to the ground. The humanoid insect didn't want to stop there and was already about to launch another attack. Its arms turned into a scythe, and it was about to use this against Captain Jiang. But luckily, she recovered and was able to block the attack. She was just a few centimeters away from danger. Someone then quickly came to help. It was our MC. He landed a hit on the monster. It sent him flying towards the forest. Captain Jiang didn't expect Q to help her. He then told her that he will now take the humanoid insect on his own and ordered her that she will take care of the leftovers. Captain Jiang didn't have the strength to stop Q. She just told him not to die. This humanoid insect was still flying. The punch it received was too powerful. After a while, it was able to regain itself. Q was also on his way towards the humanoid insect. This monster got confused because Q was a human in form but has the same scent as theirs. But our MC really didn't care about these things. Whether he's a human or a monster. He threw his mask again and told the humanoid insect that he's neither of the two. He also got the blood raven again and slowly gathered his powers and was about to transform. After his transformation, he preferred to be called a monster. He talked to Blood Raven. They were both happy because they could finally use their full power to this humanoid insect. After seeing Q's new form, this monster felt some uneasiness all over its body. It knew that it should be the one who attacks first because that's the only chance it has. And it did just that. He dashed towards Q. His attack landed straight to Q. The impact was so powerful that it created cracks all over the place. It was like a huge explosion. But as the dust settled, Q was still standing up. Our MC was kinda disappointed. He asked this humanoid insect if that's all the power it has. Hearing these words sent a chill to the spine of this monster. He then opted to give Q a barrage of attacks once more. This kept on going for a while. But Q came to a conclusion and had enough. He told the humanoid insect that it was his turn now. Although this monster already has some intelligence, it has no emotions. But as soon as he saw Q with his blood raven, he suddenly felt fear. With just one slash, this humanoid monster who took down a whole army base was defeated. Our MC's new form now was just too powerful. And it will keep on acquiring greater heights as long as he defeats more monsters. The system also notified him that the God-chosen monster had been defeated. The demon god that sent this monster was called Treacherous Wisdom. Blood Raven also started absorbing the blood of this monster, and since it was the blood of a demon god, it gave the sword its second evolution. Blood Raven was once again transforming. This old blade gained another ability called Crow Tide. This allows it to morph into a sea of crows that will devour all of its enemies. Q was satisfied because his weapon got stronger again. Meanwhile, Captain and her team had cleared all the monsters in their area. They were now concerned about Q. They thought he had already sacrificed his life for them. Captain Jiang was speechless. She didn't want Q to die. But they all turned their heads as soon as someone told them that Q came back. This guy was wearing his mask back. and he didn't have a single scratch in his body. The bald guy asked Q if he really defeated the monster, and he told him yes. But this guy can't believe it because that monster took down a whole army base. After that, their train was on the move again. The civilians then treated the professionals' injuries while they were traveling. Captain Jiang also thanked Q for saving her life. She told Q that his power was quickly reaching greater heights. It was like the one that Mask had. Every time they fought monsters, their powers kept on growing. Evelyn then interrupted their conversation and told them the bad news. The radio they were using was not working. They can't even contact the nearest army camp. She even has a hypothesis about this problem. Evelyn said that it was as if someone's blocking their signal. Aside from not being able to send signals, they also can't receive anything. It was like they were secluded from the rest of the world. Our MC then received a new notification from the system. It's a new mission, and the main objective was to defeat the sea of monsters that was about to attack all the army camps. As for its reward, Q will undergo an evolution that could turn him into a demon god. This reward got our MC's attention. After that, the train still kept on moving towards L4 Army Camp. But then their radio suddenly picked up a message. It was from the L4 Army Camp. Evelyn was shocked because yesterday, all of the radio signals were not working. She then answered the radio and told the L4 Army Camp about their situation, and that they were heading towards them. L4 Army Camp responded. They already knew that M2 had already fallen. They ordered the train to come to the army camp quickly to receive some protection. Evelyn was kinda relieved because their fuel was also running low. They really need to go to L4. The professionals and the civilians were happy because they could now rest and start their new life in this army camp. But then another radio signal was received. The voice on the other end told them that they should not trust L4. The message revealed that L4 had already fallen and it was the monsters who contacted them. This development shocked everyone. Not only monsters have intelligence now, but they could also imitate human voices. Captain Jiang then remembered the instances where the monsters really acted like humans. The humanoid lizards from before and the humanoid insect a while ago were hard proof that they could really do this. She then grabbed the radio and asked the identity of the one speaking on the other end. The person on the radio then revealed that they were survivors. They're the ones who managed to escape against the monsters 2 days ago. L4 was already destroyed. He also told them that the monsters that attacked L4 were all bizarre and powerful. They even defeated a level 8 professional easily. He also told them that they already have set up a temporary camp, and he told them the coordinates. But then, another signal overlapped the other. L4 and the temporary camp were now claiming that one of them was the monsters pretending to be humans. This confused everyone. They have no way of telling which one was telling the truth. Some of the civilians opted to believe the ones from the L4 camp because they knew that an army base would not fall against the monsters easily. Captain Jiang was still thinking about what to do. She then asked for Q's opinion. Our MC told them that they should not go to either place. He told them that both of these camps were traps. In his previous life, there's this demon god that could enlighten and give wisdom to other monsters. And this demon god was called Treacherous Wisdom. This demon god was also the reason why the camps fell into crumble. Those monsters that were given some intelligence led monsters on a rampage. They also deceived and enslaved humans. But last time, the L4 camp was able to withstand the attacks of the monsters. Our MC thought that since he was not going to the void anymore to fight these demon gods, they now have more energy to spare. That's why this attack was enough to take down L4. Q was now thinking if this development was a good or a bad one in the long run. He then smiled and thought that all things will just be fine as long as the world doesn't get destroyed. The only thing that Q was focused on preventing was the extinction of humanity. After that confusing encounter with the monsters that were pretending to be humans, Captain Jiang's group decided to just go and check the temporary camp. They reached the place that was indicated on the coordinates, and there's really a small campsite built by humans. These professionals from L4 welcomed them right away. But the only problem was they were already being controlled by monsters. Not long after, they attacked Captain Jiang's group. Our MC was the one who prevented these guys from attacking their group. Although they resolved this matter quickly, they still suffered some damages. Evelyn, together with some soldiers, were tasked to exchange some resources to this camp. But then her companions got killed. She's the only one who survived. All of these things were being recorded by Captain Jiang. She had this diary with her. Captain Jiang then started talking to Q. She told Q that L4 Army Camp got baited as well into taking these survivors, and that led into their base falling into the hands of the monsters. She asked Q if monsters could really gain intelligence and even have the ability to plan out strategies on their own. Q knew that this was possible. Unlike the other demon gods, Treacherous Wisdom always uses his intelligence against Mask. He lets everyone do their job while he is hiding and planning something more dangerous. Among all the other demon gods, Treacherous Wisdom was the only one he had not seen. This one always hides himself from battles. Jiang also opened up the weapon that Q uses. She told him that it was really strong. He then told her that it was a gift from a friend. Q remembered Zixi and wondered if she would still consider him as her friend after killing her younger sister. In his past life, he also experienced the same scenario and the ending was not good. But right now, he knows that he can't really be distracted with these things. Their conversation was interrupted when this guy told Captain Jiang that she should look outside. At the other side of this cliff, something was happening. There were a lot of monsters running towards the same direction. There were even these flying ones. Captain Jiang quickly noticed that these monsters were also heading to the A1 Army Camp. They were at least several thousands in numbers. This guy then saw something on the opposite side of the battlefield. There were a lot of tanks that were about to face these monsters. These ones started their attacks, and the monsters got heat. A lot of them were defeated. Captain Jiang praised the military tactics that these guys used because they lured all the monsters in one place and took them down in one go. The train continued their way to A1 Army Camp. They were also approached by these trucks. Captain Jiang and her team stopped the train. They also introduced themselves to these soldiers from A1, but instead of welcoming them, guns were pointed at them. These guys from A1 don't trust them. The bald guy tried explaining and clearing this misunderstanding up, but these guys told them that the first ones who were controlled by the monsters also said the same thing. Someone from the back then spoke. He told the A1 soldiers that he knew these people. This guy was Supreme Commander Liang. Ever since the attack of the intelligent monsters, A1 Army Camp had been wary and careful of taking on survivors from the other camps. They even built a quarantine facility just to make sure that the humans they were helping were not being controlled by monsters. Commander Liang explained everything to them and why they should comply with these protocols first. He also told Captain Jiang that before the Sea of Monsters could reach N3 camp, they were able to retreat in A1. All of the people there were safe. She thought that things were really serious because camps were being abandoned just like that, even though they spent lots of resources to build them. Commander Liang also told her about the traitors that tried to deceive A1 camp. Captain Jiang didn't mind being held in here to prove herself to them. She then asked her mentor about the intelligent monsters. She knew that if it weren't for these ones, humans could easily fend off these monsters. Commander Liang told her that these ones were related to the monster gods. This is all he knows, but as for her, she could learn more of it soon. He also told her that as soon as she was cleared, the higher-ups will assign her to a new mission because they were running low on manpower. As soon as Commander Liang left, she started thinking on how she could find more about these monster gods. She turned her head around and looked at something. Q was with her inside her cell, and this guy was busy doing something. He was looking at the military maps of this place. Q was looking at the extinct volcano near the A1 camp. He's planning something to stop the Sea of Monsters. But as they were being quarantined, the television showed the news about these congressmen. Apparently, they told everyone that they already sent another batch of reinforcements to help the front lines from the Sea of Monsters. While this intense battle was happening, these guys were still concerned about their image to the public. Even if Captain Jiang was furious at these guys, She knew that some of them were really powerful. The weakest among these guys was at level 8 rank, and if they could really use some help from them. After a while, these guards told Captain Jiang and Q that they were both cleared from the quarantine. And since they will also be given the authority to lead a full squadron, their weapons were also returned to them. Captain Jiang thought that maybe the situation got worse because they needed extra force to lead the people against these monsters. Q personally requested Evelyn to be in his squad. These two were then brought to the squad that they were about to lead. They found out that they were about to lead a bunch of prisoners from the redemption camp. Since they needed all the manpower they could get, they even brought up these prisoners to help. Captain Jiang knew that these guys were up to no good. Their fighting skills were not above average and they were harder to lead. The officers then gave them some radio equipment so that Q and Jiang could still communicate with each other even if they were handling lots of prisoners. Q appreciated the gesture. He knew that he'll need something like this with his plan. The officer also suggested that Q and Jiang's team should take their team away from the northwest side because that's the most dangerous part of the battlefield. But our MC had something different in his mind. He specifically chose to be in the northwest part. This officer got confused. He then reminded Q again that that place was the most dangerous part of the battlefield. Q told him that he knew what he was doing. And as an exchange of choosing the most dangerous part, he asked for 20 military maps of this area and a number of miniature nuclear devices and some trip wires. Captain Jiang didn't know what's happening, but he still backed Q with his decision. The officer was still hesitant with their choice, but he still allowed them. He also made sure that Q would get all the things that he requested. Jiang then figured out Q's plan. Since they were leading these convicts, Q chose the most dangerous one to intimidate these men and give them no choice but to follow his orders. But she told Q that this plan was just too risky because these men could still disobey their orders and all of them could get wiped out. He then told Jiang that this plan's success rate was dependent on how she and Evelyn could perform their tasks. 2 hours later, Evelyn was now panicking because of the task given to her. Aside from the fact that they were near this volcano, all of the people with them were all criminals and she's not sure if they will all cooperate. Q told her that they really had no other choice but to try. These miniature nuclear weapons were being installed all over the area. Q gave all the prisoners the exact place where they should put these devices. Some of the men here were really not cooperative. After all, they just met Q and now they need to follow his commands. Q knew this and he approached the prisoners. One of them got annoyed and did this. He told Q to behave and his life will be spared if they could also get Captain Jiang and Evelyn. This statement got Captain Jiang's nerves. She used her lightning speed and dashed towards this man. And the next thing he knew, he was in a lot of pain. Captain Jiang already used her weapon and got him. Q had no objection with this. These criminals needed this for them to realize that she was more than enough to kill them all. Captain Jiang also showed them her deadly lightning skills. This was enough to let them know who's in charge of this mission. Q gave these criminals 2 options. It's either die or follow his orders. They can't escape this area as well because monsters are everywhere. The battle between the artillery and monsters also began to heat up. Q and the others looked towards the battle, and slowly, the monsters were advancing forward. Evelyn knew that if these lines of defense were defeated, all of the monsters could surround them in an instant. The prisoners also started to panic. This was the time that Q had been waiting for. These men were now desperate and will follow everything he will say. Our MC also told them that if they will just follow his orders, he will surely create a miracle. This statement left them speechless. Q then assigned everyone. Each group will have 10 members. They will also be given 1 radio each group. This radio was the most important thing and they should not let the monsters get any of these. The groups were named from Group A up to Group K, and each of them have a specific place to plant the devices with them. Evelyn also figured out how to install these miniature devices all over the place. Not long after, some of the groups have already reached their positions. They also reported that they were now being surrounded by monsters. Q told them to retreat and follow the path that he gave them. These prisoners were still doubting his skills, but they had no other choice but to follow him. And as they ran towards the direction that Q gave them, they really met the monsters. Q then told them to throw all they got towards these monsters. After distracting the monsters, these guys retreated. Q intentionally teased these monsters. He wanted them agitated. The next devices will now be detonated after a few seconds. A huge explosion was then heard all over the place. The agitated monsters got caught up from the explosion. Q then gathered up all the fleeing prisoners in one place. These guys were now being chased by monsters left and right. And one by one, these prisoners realized the detailed plan that Q executed. They were now full of hope that with Q's orders, they would all survive. As soon as the monsters grouped up, they threw all their weapons towards them, and it got all the monsters in the area. Their mission was successful. All the groups were then asked to return to the mountain top after their tasks. Captain Jiang was also tasked to use her powers to detonate all the miniature nuclear weapons that were planted all over the hot springs. As soon as that was activated, the weapons exploded and a frightening amount of water was poured out. These created a landslide that was backed by the huge boulders and trees on the mountain. In a split second, the monsters that were lurking around the mountain were swallowed by the waters. This final move wiped out all the monsters. The generals that were in the headquarters were all shocked by this development. The ones who defeated the sea of monsters were a bunch of criminals from the redemption camp. But as usual, the credit was given to Song Ming, Hiao, and to other congressmen who had no contributions or whatsoever. In return, Song Ming gave the prisoners a generous gift. He gathered them and took them in a private plane. Just when they thought that their efforts were appreciated, they found out that they would just be brought back to prison. Q, Captain Jiang's team, and Evelyn were immediately assigned to their next destination. After a few days, the criminals found out that these congressmen stole all the glory from them and they started rioting inside their cells. The officials then decided to kill all these men and framed them up on acting aggressively. Meanwhile, at the residence of the commander-in-chief of A1, the chief was with Song Ming and they were talking about the prisoners. This guy asked the chief why he let them kill all the prisoners. He then told Song Ming that he did that to protect their image. These prisoners could spread some rumors about what really happened with their battle against the Sea of Monsters. The chief also assigned some people to monitor Q and the others in case they talked about what really happened. Song Ming also made sure that this kind of thing won't happen again in the future. The chief also opened up about the weapons that they were expecting to assist the front lines. Song Ming assured the chief that these weapons were already on their way towards the front lines. As they were having their meeting, these soldiers were still holding their defense against the monsters. This line of defense was the one the chief was talking about. More and more vicious monsters were appearing and spawning to attack their defense. But then their officer told them that they should now retreat to the second line of defense. This confused the soldiers because if they gave this position up, all of their sacrifices will be wasted. But the officer said that they were just following orders from the higher-ups. A voice commanding them to get lost was heard from behind. It was from these huge and muscular men. These guys were the weapons that Song Ming was talking about. Genetically altered soldiers. The scientist behind him told this soldier that all the tests were complete and he can now start attacking. These guys asked the normal soldiers to move. He then bumped his fist into his chest. This action activated something. The serum on their back then started coming into their body. This made all their muscles and nerves increase in size. Their hearts were also forced to beat much faster. The bodies of these altered soldiers were buffed up again. These guys then rushed into the front lines. They were about to meet monsters head-on. The scientists behind them were all satisfied with the initial result of their experiments. They were quite proud of these humans that they treated like monsters. Meanwhile, these soldiers were in awe. They thought that the soldiers from Star City were too powerful. They were able to one-shot all the monsters in their way. The battle was too easy for them. Since they can't really be satisfied with these weak monsters, they took the liberty of charging in the middle of the monsters. The soldiers at the back lines were now starting to get concerned about them. He was then told that these soldiers could only bring out their true powers by doing that. These were the kinds of battles they were expected to have. This one was now being surrounded by monsters. He removed his helmet and revealed his altered face as well. This soldier was more like a monster now. This was a morning sun project Hiao was talking about last time. Since he's far from the people and no one could see his face right now, this one was excited to show his true self. He initiated another injection again. This pushed his body to the limits. The muscles in his body were about to outgrow his bodysuit. His hands also started transforming. He then grabbed one of the monster, and he squeezed it using only his hand. This guy was about to annihilate all the monsters in this area. After a few seconds, the tide was turned around. The ones that were chasing the monsters now were the human soldiers. This guy can't believe that the monsters were the ones who were retreating this time. Meanwhile, the scientist recorded that the progress that they got today far exceeds the expectation they had. 100 altered soldiers were enough to make the monsters run for their lives. And if they could improve these results in the future, he's sure that they could create the most powerful professionals. Some of them even brought some parts of the monsters they have killed. They wanted these monsters to be used for the next set of experiments. These soldiers also wished to be sent to the next line of defense. Their hunger for blood was not yet quenched. The scientist told them that they should be checked first before they could fight again. But then the ground started to shake. They were then shocked by what they saw. There's this titan-like monster behind them. Its movements and steps were enough to shake the ground. They were now confused where this monster came from, but then this altered soldier felt that this one was from all the bodies of the monsters that were defeated. This one didn't really care much at all because he had been wanting to fight stronger opponents. He jumped towards the monster. He used his sword and slashed through the monster. But nothing happened. The monster also got him in its hands. The scientist quickly noticed the reflexes of these monsters, and they could easily be ranked as level 9 monsters. The scientist also warned the altered soldier to not use any fluid and transform right in front of many people. But since they couldn't really handle their thirst for blood, their reasoning was not functioning properly. All they wanted was to fight as long as they could. This soldier injected another set of fluids again into his body, and this transformation was enough to rip off his bodysuit. It also revealed his final form. All of his features looked like those of the monsters. Other soldiers thought that this one turned into a monster. The altered soldier then gathered all of his strength to get off the grip of this monster. He struggled and kept on trying, but it was not effective. The fingers of this monster haven't even moved. This titan just stared at him. It then raised its other hand. And finally, the titan squeezed the altered soldier using its hands. There was really nothing he could do about this. The scientist then figured out what just happened. The monster intentionally played with its prey. The chief then received the reports about these level 9 monsters. But before someone could even respond to his question, the line was cut off. He immediately ran towards his balcony to check the situation, and he saw these titans approaching the A1 army camp. This story turned into Attack on Titan real quick. The chief quickly reported this to Song Ming. All of the higher-ups knew that these kinds of things were only happening because of the monster gods, and they started their move because Mask was gone. The chief didn't mean to say the name of Mask in front of Song Ming, but this guy agreed on what he said. These things were happening because of Mask's absence, and once again, Song Ming blamed this disaster on Mask. He could easily turn things around just by his words. Right now, there were still 40 level 7 professionals, 15 level 8 professionals, and 6 level 9 professionals in the camp. This includes Song Ming and the chief. Song Ming told the chief that they could use all the level 7 to 8 professionals to be a cannon fodder. And as for himself, he wouldn't be involved in protecting this base because he's just a representative from Star City. This statement made the chief feel disgusted. Song Ming plans to do what they also have done in Da City. They will use the soldiers to buy them some time, and then they will launch a nuclear attack towards the monsters. He doesn't care whether he'll need to sacrifice some of the professionals in the process. This guy planned it all along. The lower-leveled professionals will be replaced by their altered soldiers that were backed up by science. The chief knew that Song Ming could do everything he wanted. And that's the reason he will also go with this man's plan and save himself from the trouble. He then agreed to all the terms he said and will make the arrangements right away. And then more soldiers and professionals were sent to the front lines. Even Captain Jiang and Q were sent here. And as soon as they arrived, Jiang saw the monsters waiting for them. There were a lot of titans coming in their way now. Q already knew who did this. And it's the monster god named Treacherous Wisdom. These titans started to roar and show their might to the humans. This one even caught a small monster and made it like a rock. This scene reminded me of the Beast Titan from Attack on Titan anime. It threw the monster towards the army camp. The soldiers saw what's coming, but they were too slow to react to this attack. The attack landed towards the wall and it destroyed it. A few more like these were sent on their way. The monsters didn't stop there. They were even planning on tossing one titan towards the base, and they did just that. One of them flew off. The titan landed on the wall and destroyed it as well. Right now, this one was staring at a soldier. This left this one frozen in his tracks. The titan then started to wreak some havoc into the base. These led the other smaller monsters a chance to enter the base. And from there, chaos was created. Captain Jiang did her best on fending off these monsters. She also asked Q if he had something planned to turn the tide around. And our MC never fails in these kinds of situations. He told Captain Jiang that he only needs 30 minutes to solidify his plan. This lady knew that 30 minutes was too long, but they really had no other choice. She will do her best to buy Q more time to prepare for what he wants to do. Captain Jiang started to show off her lightning skill. With her lightning speed, she quickly defeated a lot of monsters in just one go. Her attack made her reach up to the edge of the walls, and that's where she saw lots of monsters trying to crawl up to the wall. Jiang had always hated her father ever since her mother died because her life had been a shadow of her father's legacy. But his lightning skill was also passed on to her. And right now, she will not deny the existence of this powerful lightning inside her. Captain Jiang was also wearing a mask to suppress her powers, but now she removed it. This lady still questions her father why he didn't save her in the middle of the sea of monsters. And right now, she will fight these monsters until she drops. She planned to visit her father and asked him herself. Captain Jiang then jumped towards the sea of monsters at the bottom of the wall. She made it clear that this act was not a suicide. This was her failing to learn how to fly. A lightning bolt struck the ground. Captain Jiang continued her charge towards the Titan, and along the way, she defeated lots of monsters. This lady used her weapon to pierce through this monster's hand, but her attack did nothing. The monster then swatted her back to her place. Before she hit the ground, Q came in to rescue her. Our MC was able to catch her, but the impact was still strong. Q then praised Captain Jiang for her hard work. He told her that she had done enough. And right now, Q fixed his attention towards these titans. Our MC told Jiang that right now, she can't handle a level 8 monster. Q summoned Blood Raven again and told her that he doesn't plan to die here. As soon as Q got his sword back, his transformation started. Q didn't really care if someone saw his true form right now. The greatest monster will now end this senseless fight. Q needed the extra 30 minutes to be able to transform again back to this form. And while he was walking away, Captain Jiang saw him. She's caught off guard by this development. But then the Titan started to attack as well. Q met its attack mid-air. He also did a lot of slashes. This was enough to chop this monster's hands off. Q also did a horizontal slash towards the Titan, and a dark red aura slashed right through it. The Titan was cut in half. Blood started pouring from the Titan's body, and Q used this and made Blood Raven absorb all of it. The chief and Song Ming were also watching Q fight. They recognized him because this was the same monster that helped them in Da City. Song Ming was also now excited to capture Q so he could conduct more experiments and improve his altered soldiers once more. At the same time, someone contacted them and told them about the nuclear weapons heading towards the monsters. There were about 35 warheads deployed this time. These nuclear weapons then appeared right above the monsters and professionals. Some of them already lost hope right away. Song Ming then thanked these guys for the sacrifices they have given to humanity. But as these warheads were heading down to the monsters, a crack in space was seen. An eye appeared out of nowhere. Song Ming started to get scared because he knew that this eye was from a demon god. He's now panicking because he thought that this was impossible. Humans learned that there were some rules being followed in the universe. And one of these rules was that the monsters were being hindered by this invisible net. Only those small and weak monsters were allowed to get through this net. And as for the demon gods, their size was like that of a great white shark, so it was impossible for them to get past through the net. Since humanity learned about this net, they started to divide their power. Some of the professionals were assigned to clear the monsters on Earth, and they were called the peace factions. Meanwhile, Mask was tasked to clear the monsters in the void and prevent them from coming to Earth. And their team was called the War Faction. This led to more complications between the two factions. While Mask was busy fighting the demon gods, the other one was busy destroying his image to the people. Back to the current situation. The warheads were still heading towards the monsters. But this eye saw these nuclear weapons. It then created these dark portals that absorbed all of these warheads. Song Ming was devastated. He didn't know that a demon god would appear and stop his plans. The chief was also frozen in his tracks. Song Ming then immediately walked out and told the chief that he will get back to Star City to report what's happening. But the chief knew that this guy was just running away. Since they can't defeat a demon god, the chief then followed Song Ming to escape as well. Meanwhile, all of the professionals that were left in the battlefield were all wondering what this eye was. The monsters around it also started to get stronger. Our MC then continued his mission. He still defeated some of the titans, but with their buffed strength, Q was also swatted out. This attack was also too powerful. Our MC was back to the corner. This eye then saw Q in his monster form. Half of his monster mask was also destroyed, and it revealed our MC's face. As soon as the demon gods saw this, something changed. The eye kept on staring at Q. Captain Jian also noticed it, but she thought that this doesn't make any sense. A demon god couldn't care less about weak humans. The only human that could threaten the demon gods was Mask. The demon god's eye saw Q's face and it got scared. It then immediately backed off. The titans also started to stop from moving, and then they turned into dust. The small monsters also started running away from the battlefield. The soldiers and other professionals started to celebrate because of this. Meanwhile, Q remembered the demon god that was too scared to face him. Treacherous wisdom hasn't shown its face to Q. Not even once. But the moment when Q abandoned his identity as Mask, this demon god gathered its power again and began to attack. Q didn't expect the demon god to still be scared even if he's in this kind of state. That demon god was already at level 13 and it could easily defeat Q if it just assessed the situation. With that, the mission that was given to our MC was completed. And as for his reward, he will now be closer to becoming a demon god himself. Q started to get his initial transformation. All the life force from the monsters were now coming towards him. This was a lot of power that could destroy everything. After that, Q was interrupted. It was Song Ming and his crew. Captain Jiang immediately went beside Q and tried to defend him. She told them that Q was a human, not a monster. But Song Ming wouldn't listen to any of this nonsense. He told them that since he had the appearance of a monster, Q will always be a monster. He also blamed Q for the disasters that appeared when he was a prison in the area. These allegations were backed by the chief. Jiang answered back. She still insisted that Q was their ally. He even defeated the monsters for humanity's sake. But this chief told her to keep quiet. These guys were really helpless. He even framed Captain Jiang and told her that maybe she's with him and they planned all of these things. The chief then ordered his men to arrest Captain Jiang and Q. The soldiers then surrounded them right away. They also tried attacking Q, but our MC fended them off easily. The chief also made his move. This guy was a level 9 professional, but Q blocked his attack using his sword. The chief figured out just how powerful Q was. He just finished fighting all those titans and still has the strength to withstand a level 9 professional's attack. At the same time, Song Ming wrapped his arms around Q. Our MC placed his hand onto Song Ming's, and then he twisted and broke them off. Q also used the Blood Raven to defeat Song Ming. He was still helpless and weak in front of Q. Our MC just stared at him with no emotions at all. The chief felt danger as soon as Q turned his attention to him. This guy started running away, but he was chased by these dark red crows. Q also suddenly appeared in front of him. The chief started screaming out of fear. This guy called him a monster. Q wielded his Blood Raven again and slashed right through the middle. Captain Jiang witnessed all of these. Someone then arrived. It was Commander Liang, and he was paying his respects to Q. He also called our MC as his army chief. He told Q that even though his eyes couldn't see, he already knew his chief's identity right from the start. He revealed that Q was indeed the same guy that saved humanity countless times. He was masked. The ones who were loyal to Mask have been waiting for his return. They kept a low profile while they were gathering all the power they could have. Our MC didn't say anything to Commander Liang, but it was as if he received a secret message from his chief. Q also started to let out his dark aura. He then flew up to the sky and left the battlefield. He's going somewhere more important now. A few days after the battle against the Sea of Monsters, the federal government held a conference that was addressing this topic. They announced that the soldiers and professionals from the government were able to defeat thousands of monsters ranging from level 5 to 9. But they also revealed some faces that they deemed to be traitors. They poisoned the minds of the people into thinking that these guys colluded with the monsters. They also highlighted Q's situation. They told everyone that this man embraced the monster's path so much that he turned into a monster himself. This caused a lot of concern towards the people. Their murmurs and questions were then silenced by this man. It was Yao. He told the people that this kind of situation was kinda expected because some humans will get attracted to the power that the monsters could offer. But he assured everyone that humanity will still prevail. They will slowly fight the traitors and still put them into a fair trial. These piece of sheets believed everything Yao said. They were just too gullible. One of the reporters then saw someone that was standing from afar. Their camera got this image. It was the same guy who was branded as a monster. The civilians then started running away. Professionals that were guarding this event made their way towards Q, but our MC just dodged their attacks and let them off easily. He didn't kill any of them this time. Even if these guys tried their best, they really can't defeat Q. After defeating the professionals, Q continued to walk towards the stage. People also distanced themselves from him. They even created a path for him to walk through, and the one who was on the other end was Yao. This man quickly recognized the silhouette of this man. It was the silhouette of his best friend who fought alongside him. He was also the same man who he impeached last time. Yao now wondered if Q also recognized him the same way Yao recognized Q. All this time, this guy was craving for Q's attention and recognition. Ever since Q became Mask, he felt like he lost his best friend. He was always at the back of Mask cheering along. Yao then thought that this time's different. He could now prove himself. Right now, Yao was sure he could defeat Q. He also has the same serum that the altered soldiers used. He could also use this to achieve Q's power. But our MC just continued to walk towards the stage. Yao was now feeling all the pressure in the world. All he needed to do was fight Q in his state right now to get the whole world's approval. He knew that his time was running out, and after a few seconds, Yao froze out and did nothing. Q has passed by. Our MC immediately went in front of the mic. Meanwhile, Yao fell on his knees. Q then introduced himself to everyone. He told them that he was Mask. The civilians didn't believe him because Mask was not a monster. Along with the civilians that were present in the event was Captain Jiang. She still can't believe that Q was really indeed Masked. Q then told everyone that he had already returned but not as their hero. Humanity had already proven that being a hero was useless, and the only thing they needed was Q. It really doesn't matter what the people decide to call him. He also told them that one thing's for sure. Q was the only one who could lead them out of this abyss. He also corrected and set things straight. Q doesn't need humanity, but humanity needs him. This was the truth. Humanity should have been extinct a long time ago if it weren't because of Mask. These guys still doubted Q. They thought that Mask would never say these statements. Q continued his speech. He told all of the people that it seems that they fear too much power. And this fear led them to exile the only hope that they have. Weakness was never a sin, but the pride of humanity was. And right now, Q will use humanity to achieve his goal. He will drain all of their resources. Our MC made a bold statement. He made it clear that from now on, the world was within his hands. He will now control and own everything on Earth. Captain Jian was still listening to Q's speech. She then realized what her mentor told her. This was the reason why Commander Liang insisted on accompanying Q, because he's the key to all of her questions. Tears started falling down her cheeks. People also started to hail Q as their hero. They even worshipped him like a god. With this, our MC was more than ready to take on the demon gods.